Welcome to another big night of HBO pay-per-view boxing. Coming to you in high definition from the Thomas Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. Tonight, we bring you the rubber match between Manny Pacquiao and Érik Morales. In March of 2005, Morales won a close, unanimous decision. But he was stopped by Pacquiao in the 10th round of their rematch 10 months ago. Pacquiao versus Morales 3 comes your way a couple of hours from now. But before our main event, a three-fight undercard beginning with a rematch in the 108-pound division between title holder Omar Nino and the man he upset to win that belt, Brian Viloria. Then a featherweight matchup between Juan Carlos Salgado and Marcus Licona. And in our semifinal, Ricardo Torres and Mike Arnudis meet in a 140-pound matchup scheduled for 12 rounds of fireworks. Pacquiao-Morales is being brought to you by Wynn Las Vegas Resort and Country Club, Budweiser, bright, crisp, clean, pure. This is Budweiser. This is beer. And by HBO Pay-Per-View, the best in pay-per-view entertainment, brought to you by HBO. Hello again, everybody. I'm Jim Lampley. Welcome to this special night in Las Vegas. Special because we know for an almost certainty that we will have a terrific fight with which to conclude the evening. Obviously, a lot of the attention falls here on one of the top 3 pound-for-pound fighters in boxing, Manny Pacquiao. Perhaps he's the most exciting fighter in the entire sport. But there's sentiment surrounding the appearance of Érik Morales because his great fans and many here in media who've appreciated him over the years realize that if Érik Morales can't win tonight, this may be his last big rodeo in the sport, his last appearance at the very top level. And for more on that, let's turn to the legendary manager and trainer Emanuel Stewart, coming off his huge Vladimir Klitschko win last week in Madison Square Garden. Manny, Érik Morales has lost 3 of his last 4, after at one point being 41 wins, no losses. He's had an incredible number of big rounds, big fights, tremendous wars. There's an old saying that every great fighter has one last great fight in him. But does that apply to Érik at this point?
I'm hoping that that's the case. My gut feeling is that last great fight was the first fight when he fought with Pacquiao.
Manny Pacquiao.
I think that was the last great fight. But nevertheless, I'm hoping that he still has it in him. The one thing we do know tonight, both of these guys have been certified and stamped grade A by the fans and the media as fighters. We have 2 fighters tonight, so whatever happens is going to be exciting.
Indeed it is, and for more, we turn to HBO boxing analyst Larry Merchant. Larry, Manny Pacquiao, as I mentioned, may be the most exciting fighter in all of boxing. At 27, he's in his prime. You suggested in the Countdown show that the only fighter who can beat Manny Pacquiao head-to-head is Manny Pacquiao. Is that a reference to his outsized and tumultuous public figure status in the Philippines?
That and really more. Pacquiao's popularity borders on some kind of worship. Politicians and the poor court him. The media engulfs him. Rebels in remote islands take the day off as an armistice when he fights. Crime in crime-ridden areas drops to 0. A couple of numbers. He employs 9 full-time bodyguards. He's appeared in 7 movies. All of that seems to inspire him in the ring. But perhaps conspiring against him is a messy legal entanglements he's involved in and messy financial affairs. So far, it's just kept him hungry. So far.
All right, obviously, Pacquiao-Morales is the 4th card on the, or 4th fight on the card tonight, so we've got a while to go before we get there. We're going to start with a mini preview. And this is a rematch in the 108-pound weight class of a fight that took place earlier this year, a fight in which Omar Nino upset Brian Viloria to take a title belt. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape in the 108-pound weight class between Nino and Viloria. I say it's a mini preview of the main event because Viloria, though he hails from Honolulu, Hawaii, is of Filipino extraction, and Nino, of course, like Érik Morales, is a Mexican. There's a 5-year age advantage for the Hawaiian punch, Brian Viloria. They're equal in height. A 1-inch arm length advantage for Nino, measured from the armpit to the end of the fist. They both weighed in within a pound of the 108-pound limit. Brian Viloria has gone all the way up to 119 pounds overnight. Nino will fight at 113. Rules of the bout with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman. But first, before we get to Harold, punch stat numbers from their first fight, Larry. A big upset win for Nino.
Nino was a 15-1 underdog. He threw about twice as many punches and landed more than twice as many punches as Viloria.
Now rules of the bout with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
The Omar Nino Brian Viloria fight is scheduled for 12 rounds using the unified rules of the Association of Boxing Commissions. There is no 3 knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight. In case the cut is caused by an accidental headbutt, we go to the scorecards after 4 rounds have been completed, and you cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the 12th and final round. Jim.
Thank you, Harold. Let's go to ring announcer Michael Buffer for the official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, by way of Wynn, Las Vegas, welcome to an evening of world-class professional boxing for your entertainment, brought to you by Bob Arum's Top Rank Incorporated, sponsored by PokerStars.net and your undisputed king of beer, Budweiser. Brought to you in association with HBO Pay-Per-View. All bouts tonight are sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Chairman Dr. Tony Alamo, Executive Director Keith Kaiser, Commissioner Skip Avancino Jr., John Bailey, Joe W. Brown, and TJ Day. Timekeepers at the bell and counting for the knockdown seconds, Steve Esposito and Mike Lachella. The physicians in attendance are Doctors William Berliner, Jeff Davidson, Al Capana, and Rodney Corson. And at ringside, the 3 judges scoring this contest on the 10-point system are Carol Castellano, Samuel Conde, and Dave Moretti. And inside the ring, the man in charge of the action at the bell, referee Joe Cortez. And now, ladies and gentlemen, 12 rounds of boxing for the WBC Mini Flyweight Championship of the World. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing green, official weight 108 pounds, professional record 19 victories, including 12 knockouts, only 1 defeat. From Waipahu, Hawaii, the former WBC Mini Flyweight World Champion, the challenger, Brian, the Hawaiian Punch, Viloria. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing white trimmed with green and red, official weight 107 pounds. His professional record, 24 victories, including 10 knockouts, only 2 defeats with 1 bout even. Damas y caballeros de Guadalajara, Mexico, the reigning, defending WBC Mini Flyweight Champion of the World, Omar El Maestrito Nino.
All right, Brian. All right, back up. All right, gentlemen, we went all the rules in the dressing room. Yo di la regla en el camerino los dos. I expect a good, clean fight. Deme una pelea limpia. Protégete en todo momento. Protect each other at all time. Touch them up, guys. Remember, I'm fair, but I'm firm.
There couldn't be a more vivid contrast between these young men outside the ring. Viloria, a top high school student, 3 years of college. Nino will use some of the purse, he told us, of this fight to repair his 20-year-old Volkswagen, which broke down.
This despite the fact that 10 years ago, Nino had a first-round technical knockout of Jorge Arce, who is now the biggest drawing card in the 108 and 112-pound weight classes. And Nino doesn't even call out Arce for a rematch. He basically says, look, I'm fighting to try to feed my family. I can't even think about trying to get to Arce at this point.
Well, he's got his hands full tonight with Brian. Brian's body language indicates that he is very focused, very upset with himself from the last fight, and he's coming to fight a very determined fight tonight, and it's going to be very hard for anyone to beat him easy tonight.
In the first fight, Viloria landed only 7 jabs in the entire fight. Translation, he was waiting to land a big punch. He was standing and looking at Nino. He was getting hit all night long at moments when he should have been fighting.
I think it was a bad night for him, and it was one of those exceptionally good nights for Omar. So everything worked just the opposite for Villamar. But tonight, I think it's going to be a different fight.
Viloria with the right hand to the body, goes on the attack early. Nino countering with the right hand, and now leading with the right hand there.
Nino is very cagey. He places his punches very good. He moves back. He's a counter puncher.
He won the first fight with his left hand, really, Emmanuel. Hooks and left jabs were by far his best weapons in that fight.
And Brian was basically, because of the great knockouts that he's had and his nickname, the Hawaiian Punch, he was going for the big knockout, and when it didn't happen, he found himself in trouble and lost the decision.
We saw the left-hand counter hook by Nino, partially blocked by the right glove of Brian Viloria.
But Nino is fighting a very smart fight again. He's counter-punching, and Brian is now falling into the game of fighting in spots. He's going to have to be more consistent with his attacks and not leave so much time in between.
Right hand lead lands for Nino as Viloria comes in. Viloria reaching with the right hand there. Landed a good, quick left hook in the previous exchange.
Good sharp, crisp punching by both guys.
By Nino, Viloria with the counter left hook. Both guys are capable of counter punching.
But Brian is the big puncher. That's one thing that's interesting to see. These guys so small. I was just laughing with that.
Viloria got in a couple of right hands in that exchange. He landed a good uppercut.
Yeah, but Brian is putting a lot of pressure on him, a lot more than in the first fight. And Brian still is the puncher between the two.
Well, you have to remember that in the previous fight before that, he won the title with a first-round knockout.
Absolutely, Larry, and I think that went to his head. He had a great, one of the best one-punch knockouts we've saw in a long time, and then he considered himself as a puncher, and he forgot about boxing.
Well, that was a dramatic night, because in his preceding fight, he had inadvertently injured Ruben Contreras, who suffered a brain injury, who was regarded as being at death's door for several days. Contreras survived, was at ringside. Viloria kissed him before the fight, then went in and knocked out his opponent in one round. Obviously, there was an emotional hangover from that. And Ray Torres is our interpreter in the red corner, where they'll be speaking Spanish to Omar Nino.
You did very well in this round. Don't forget, when you come out, keep your hands up so you keep him at bay. Yeah. Hit him in the liver. You worked very good. That was a good round. With a lot of intelligence, we got to keep doing the same thing.
Overhand right, son.
Yeah.
Come back with your left hook.
Okay.
It's working. It'll work beautiful, all right?
Yes, sir.
Shuba.
About the two best punches.
All right, son. Let's go get it. Let's go get it, bye.
You heard trainer Ruben Gomez asking for overhand right and left hook. Brian Viloria politely saying, yes, sir. Over in the opposite corner, Nino has a De La Hoya in his corner. Ignacio De La Hoya, the cut man.
We should point out here that Freddie Roach is normally, and has been throughout his professional career, the trainer for Viloria. But because of all the time he had to spend with Manny Pacquiao, Viloria decided to go with the #2 man as the head man in for this fight.
And the guy that he has as his head trainer normally operates as a cut man in most of the fights in this area out here.
What do you think of that choice, Emmanuel, choosing to use another trainer because he's worried about Roach's attention span while he prepares Pacquiao for the big fight?
Well, I don't think it's going to be that much of a difference, I think, because Brian himself seems to be very, very possessed and upset with himself in his fight, a very intense fight. But I think he did what he thought was the best for this particular fight.
A long time ago, James Toney learned against what he thought was a lesser fighter, Montel Griffin, that there's always somebody out there who has your number, whose style meshes with you in just such a way that it makes it very difficult for the judges to see you as the winner. The more you watch Viloria and Nino, the more you realize Nino's better against Brian than he is against some other fighter.
I can see why, too. I'm looking at Brian is still open to get hit with little short right hands after he punches himself. And Brian, in the right here, he's only taking it because he's actually crowding.
He wobbled Nino with the left hook. Nino's going to hold on right now because Viloria stunned him with the left hook at the end of that last exchange.
In the last fight, Viloria would land a punch and then pull straight back and get caught with a tail end right hand. But this time he's going forward and throwing 4 and 5 punches together.
And now Nino seems more conscious of wanting to lead with the right hand rather than waiting to counter with it. He hit Brian coming in with a right hand that started the big exchange.
Brian is fighting much more intense this round, and his left hook is being a big factor when they have the exchanges.
Nino's already been rocked once in this round by a Viloria left hook. Viloria threw 24 jabs in the first round. He has slowed the pace some here in the second round. Perhaps because of Nino's ability to counter with the right hand.
Viloria is trying to fight with controlled aggression. He probably needs to up it to more relentless aggression, because at a distance, Nino seems to be able to handle him with his counterpunching.
I agree, and what he did just there is exactly what Nino did so much the first fight. Punch and get in and out. As long as there's single punching and a big lull between the exchanges, Nino is very effective.
Filipino fans in the arena are rooting for the Hawaiian Punch, Brian Viloria. He's of Filipino descent. And we go to the dressing room of Manny Pacquiao, arriving right now in the Thomas Mack Center. This was also the site of their preceding fight, January 21 of this year, in which Pacquiao was able to knock Morales out in the 10th round. The fight began on even terms. Morales actually led on the scorecards after 5. And then from that point forward, Pacquiao was able to keep stepping up the pace and use his vastly improved right hand. He enters here, flanked by manager Shelly Finkel and by his wife. Pacquiao, who is, as Larry Merchant mentioned to you at the beginning of the show, a giant media star in the Philippines, greets trainer Freddie Roach there as he enters his dressing room. The completion of Nino versus Viloria, and then 2 more fights on the undercard prior to Manny Pacquiao's 3rd assignment against Érik Morales. Round 3 begins here. CompuBox numbers in the 2nd round. Nino 10 out of 41, Viloria 7 out of 39. But Viloria landed the big left hook at the end of one exchange, and Harold Letterman gave him the round.
I think the fight starts right here. Because Viloria has to decide whether he's willing to take the chances of getting hit to come in and pour it on, because I think Nino is just too good for him from outside.
Larry, I agree, and the fight is moving right in the pattern of the first fight right now. Brian has got to step it up and quit giving so much room between Nino, because Nino is fighting a very smart fight now by keeping that zone between them wide.
And mixing it up left and right, mixing it up body and head, mixing it up, sometimes leading, sometimes countering.
Good. Brian is a bigger puncher, so he needs to go in and take the risk and gamble and try to land more power punches.
Get those arms out, guys. Don't hold the head, don't hold the head, don't hold the head. Come on.
Nino was confident at the beginning of the fight, and if anything, his confidence has grown.
Nino hasn't landed any one particular signature punch, so to say, at this stage, but he's been busy enough.
And he lands a low blow there, and Joe Cortez is going to stop the action as Viloria looked at Cortez, and there's a warning to Nino for low blows.
Sube los golpes. Let's go, guys. Come on, hey, go. No, cuidado con el codo adentro.
Viloria.
Emmanuel, it appears to me that both fighters are using...
Hard right hand by Viloria, and the counter left. And those 2 punches caught Nino's attention, and now Viloria's confidence rises. And now the fight begins to go the way Brian Viloria might want it to go. But he overcommits there, and Nino finds it between the ropes. That blow by Nino was below the belt line of Viloria. On the other side of referee Joe Cortez, they feint, and Viloria tries a jab. He still has not been able to work his jab effectively as a consistent weapon in the fight.
Hey, háblale, deja hablar con Joe. Deja hablar con Joe.
Yeah, don't just stand there. Don't stop. Let it go. Be alert. Yeah, work the distance.
Here you can see Brian getting close right now and landing punches right hand and the left hook. The biggest difference is he's crowding and getting much closer to Nino than Nino would like.
Something strange between rounds, Emmanuel. Maybe you can comment on it, where Viloria's trainer walked over to the other corner until the referee shoot him away. I've never seen that.
Harold, how do you have it through 3?
Okay, Jim, 3-0. 30-27, Brian Viloria. You know, the first 2 rounds, I thought Brian Viloria landed the cleanest straight of punches. Nino was throwing wide. In the 3rd round, Nino did well with the flurries, but all of a sudden, Brian Viloria with that straight right hand sort of staggered Omar Nino. 3-0, Viloria.
I have it 2 rounds to 1.
Now there's a low blow by Nino. Second warning in this round.
This is the way Brian needs to fight. He needs to keep closing the gap, keeping a lot of pressure, making everything be from a shorter distance, which would prevent Nino from being able to time him. Because Nino has more of a loop in his punches. He has to have a lot more punching room.
Nino is catching Brian to the body as Viloria tries to come in.
Mainly on the belt line. Right on the green weight.
And flirting with danger because he's already gotten 2 warnings for low blows in the round.
And now he has been forced into Viloria's fight, more or less.
Now this is the distance at which Brian Viloria hasn't really been able to function effectively against Omar Nino. He needs to get closer. And Nino suddenly not as eager to throw as was the case in the first couple of rounds. No doubt the result of Brian Viloria's power punches. Nino got in a little left of the body. Viloria tapped him upstairs with a left hook.
Brian was considered by most of the members on the 2000 Olympic team as the biggest puncher, even though he was the smallest guy on the team.
I have a question to ask you, Emmanuel. They both seem to be wearing gloves to protect their hands, not real puncher's gloves. Do small guys have to protect their hands more than bigger guys?
No, not as much. Some of them just have injuries, but they're wearing the Reyes gloves, if I'm correct, which is primarily the puncher's gloves. They're not wearing the winning.
Yeah.
They're wearing the puncher's gloves.
They look more pillowy to me.
Yeah, because they were such small guys. Don't forget, they could have both scooted under the bottom strand of the ropes when they entered the ring.
Good left hook by Nino.
So far, the standout punch in the entire fight for the most part has been the left hook of Brian.
Particularly the one in the 3rd round that strafed Nino against the ropes.
Yeah, Nino hasn't found any punch so far to be that effective too much. It just his movement and ring generalship has given Brian problems, but no particular punch as he found to be effective in hitting Brian.
Correct myself, 2nd round, not 3rd round, in which Viloria landed his best left hook. He landed another good one in this round. Érik Morales, in the eyes of some, has done a miraculous job of training himself or getting ready with his trainer, his father, Jose Morales, for this fight. As recently as 3 or 4 months ago, Érik Morales looked grossly overweight for a 130-pound fighter. He went to Los Angeles and spent 2 months training in a sophisticated gym setup there, doing the kind of advanced training exercises which have never been a part of his routine before. Then he went to his normal training camp at high altitude in Mexico and prepared himself in the way that put the angles and the bones back in his face. And when you can see the bones howling in Érik Morales' face and he looks emaciated, normally that means he's ready to fight. We'll see if at age 30 and after all the ring wars he's experienced, he still has that unique vigor in the ring.
He claims that the toll that those fights have taken on him is a myth.
He'll have to prove it against Manny Pacquiao. Fifth round, and after some uncertain moments in the first 3 rounds, Brian Viloria seems to have found his confidence and is fighting with a spirited step against Omar Nino, who upset him months ago to take a title belt in this, the 108-pound weight class. Viloria started out, Emmanuel, fighting as a 112-pound professional, and then after more than a dozen fights, moved to 108. Primarily, I assume, to take more advantage of his punching power.
Yeah, I was surprised at it because usually it's just the opposite. It just, to me, I'm still amazed at seeing guys this small being able to fight before these type crowds. 40 years ago, I would have said it was impossible. And the fans are really into these small weight divisions.
Well, some of that began with 1984 American Olympian Michael Carbajal.
Michael Carbajal was our first time in. I think a lot for really the Nassim Ahmed and Kevin Kelly. Their fight was a tremendous asset to the smaller guys.
Well, if Viloria wins this fight and wins a couple of more fights impressively, we could see a real big fight in the flyweight division with him against Jorge Arce.
Or you could see him go to Japan and fight Koki Kameda. He's one of the most exciting young fighters in the sport, a 19-year-old world champion.
Who won the title in his, ninth professional
fight? That's exactly right. One of the biggest stars in Japan at this moment, and a possible pot of gold for any American who's willing to go there to fight it.
They're calling it a knockdown.
Is this going to be called a knockdown of Nino?
Because his glove touched the canvas.
So Viloria gets a big step up on the scorecards as the result of a knockdown of Nino here in the 5th. And he got it done with a right hand.
Well, the rule is any part of your body other than your feet that touches the floor as a result of a blow, whether it was a glancing blow on your shoulders or anything, it still constitutes as a knockdown.
The deficits are starting to mount up for Omar Nino. He has been warned twice for low blows. Presumably the next low blow will bring a 1-point penalty from Joe Cortez. Now he has lost, presumably, a point on the scorecards as the result of the knockdown by Viloria here in the 5th.
He's landed about 3 or 4 pretty good right hands the last couple of rounds.
You need to make him miss more. Come on, you got to play more. You got to work him, but at a distance. If you do that, he's not going to do nothing to you. Keep him at bay.
All right, son, let's bring it home, all right?
Here you see the right hand that landed really on the shoulder or the back of the head, but nevertheless, he would not have lost his balance and his knee would not have touched the floor if he hadn't have been hit. And any blow above the waist, considered a clean blow, can create a knockdown.
Here comes round 6 of a scheduled 12. Brian Viloria in the gold trunks with the green trim. Nino, white trunks, green trim. Nino from Guadalajara, Mexico. And Viloria from Waipahu, Hawaii. Waipahu is a section of Honolulu, very close to Pearl Harbor. Brian Viloria, who has done a lot of speaking to disadvantaged young people in that section of Honolulu, says it's a tough place. There's a lot of use of the methamphetamine form called ice. And he himself has done what he can at the street level to try to prevent young people from falling by the wayside. Straight right hand lead by Nino, whose punches seem to have no snap at this point in the fight.
No snap, but I think he's found the one punch that he's been effective at with the last 3 rounds, and that's that right hand. And you're going to see more of those little straight right hand leads to the head coming from him.
That time, Nino was punching from the back seat as he was trying to duck away even while throwing the right hand.
I think he respects Brian's punching power.
Wild swinging over the top with the right hand by Nino. Viloria, jab, 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 trying to set up a right hand. Sporadic action. Viloria getting to the body with the right hand. Nino countering up top. Nino's jab looks so slow at times that Viloria must be embarrassed it actually bothered him in the first fight.
Yeah, but Nino seems to be very alert, and I think he's really been inspired realizing that he had that knockdown scored against him, so he's way behind on points. And I think he's going to try to come on a little stronger at the end, but I don't know. I think the punching power of Brian is a little too much for him tonight.
This has been a relatively inactive round for both fighters, as Viloria seems to have been trying to measure Nino, looking to land something big, and Nino either taking a rest or staying out of harm's way through most of the round. And the crowd gets restless.
In front of him, come back with the overhand right, left hook, all right?
Yes, sir.
All right, son? Let's do it, all right?
Yep.
Don't just say yeah. Let's do it, all right?
Okay.
All right, son. Cut off the ring. Let's get that title, son, all right?
Okay.
Do it for you, son. Do it for you. Shut everybody's mouth off.
Okay, okay.
Round 7 of a scheduled 12 between Brian Viloria and Omar Nino for a title belt in the 108-pound weight class. Harold, do you have it? Through 6.
Okay, Jim. 59, 54, 5 rounds to 1, Brian Viloria. Jim, I got to tell you, Omar Nino is doing nothing. I mean nothing. He's circling, giving the fight away, not busy enough to win rounds. All right, in round 5, Brian Viloria took the round off. Nino landed a couple of straight shots to the body, so he wins the 5th round. But I got to tell you, the previous 4 rounds, Omar Nino is just not busy enough to win a round. 5-1 Viloria.
All right, bring it, bring it, bring it.
Left hook to the body, left hook upstairs by Nino again. His punches at this point without a lot of snap, and now he lands the right hand straight across the top. There's the right hand.
Right hand again.
And he lands another right hand. Viloria just not able to stop Nino's right hand, who lands it again.
I figured he was going to start throwing more right hand as the fight goes down the stretch, because he hasn't been able to find any other success for punch too much.
Big uppercut.
Uppercut also.
Nino seems to have caught Viloria off guard with a sudden rally here in the 7th round.
The cleanest power punches of the entire fight has been landed all in this last minute.
And it's almost as if Viloria went to sleep, thinking that Nino was no longer going to do anything in the fight, and suddenly Omar mounts a rally, throws 5 or 6 crisp power punches, lands almost all of them, and the fight looks different.
And it was very, very clean, powerful punches, too. There was no grazing punches, directly on the chin.
Now there's a right-hand lead that lands for Viloria. But after Harold Letterman told you that Nino wasn't doing enough to win most of the rounds, he's done enough to win this one unless Viloria is able to retaliate at some point. Hard right hand again by Nino. Viloria simply getting painted by those lead right hands.
If Nino continues to fight like this, the rest of the fight, he could possibly retain his title, even with the knockdown scored against him. Brian seems to have been lulled into relaxing, going to sleep, or whatever you would call it. And Nino seems to be very alert right now, and actually it seems to be more
right cross and left hook by Viloria, and now he stuns Nino with a hard right cross.
Clean up left hook, caught him beautiful. Great shot right there.
Left hook by Viloria momentarily wobbles Nino. Nino grabs him as he comes in. And again, Nino starts to land cleanly, landing 2 more shots there. Viloria retaliates with more powerful punching. After a couple of nothing rounds, there was action in the 7th. Both fighters landing hard shots.
It's just a little scratch. There's nothing happening. Nothing important. And Miguel is taking care of the cut. Come up, come up. It's just a little scratch. Keep working the same way. Don't just open up that way so he can hit you. Little defense. Keep working the same way.
Here you see Nino having a rally right in the middle of the round. Great right hand, and then he comes right back behind that and lands a tremendous uppercut, if I remember correctly.
Yep, you did.
Great uppercut right between the gloves.
Missed with the cleanup left hook. Nino was intent on doing damage after a couple of rounds of basically standing around. 21 connects in the 7th round, the high in the fight for Nino. He landed 21 out of 58. Viloria 13 out of 49, and most of his were hard shots as well. Nino winning the round on Harold Letterman's card and tightening the fight up just a little bit there. Blood on Nino's nose is from a small cut on the bridge of the nose. We were told between rounds by the Nevada State Athletic Commission that blood is from a cut caused by a punch, not by a butt. So if for any reason the fight was stopped because of that cut, Viloria would win it, regardless of the scorecards. Another right hand lead for Nino. This time Viloria is ready to counter with a right and left. Gets hit again by Nino, but comes back again.
Once you let Nino get his little rhythm and study and analyze you and time you and keep a distance, he can land those little clean pot shots. Brian has got to make him fight more consistent. Brian has faster hands because he punches more short and more accurate.
A quick left hook upstairs for Viloria after Nino landed a body shot. This time Viloria lands a straight right hand lead and flashes a little smile as if to say, aha, I landed your punch. Again, the straight right hand lands for Nino.
Yep.
Set up by the left hook in that instance.
Brian is taking a little vacation again, and he's paying for it.
Between rounds, we'll hear from Larry Merchant with Manny Pacquiao in the Filipino Stars dressing room. Nino, the busier fighter down the stretch of this round, lands a body shot. Viloria trying to land one more big one upstairs. Fight seems to be getting closer as we come down the stretch. Now here's Larry Merchant with Filipino star Manny Pacquiao.
Manny, do you expect to see a rejuvenated Morales for this fight?
Yeah, I expected on that, and we can see his face.
You can see it in his face. Can you see whether he will try to change his tactics fighting you?
I think he's go early. You know, he want to go early, and that's why he use clitoris.
He wants to test you. One last question: is anybody in the Philippines not going to watch this fight tonight?
I don't think so. Everybody, they're gonna watch tonight.
Thank you, Manny.
Thank you.
CompuBox numbers through the 8th round here. Power shots. Nino's landed 80 out of 232, 34%. Viloria 65 out of 259, but Brian throws the harder shots. So you might see the power punch category as something of a wash, although Viloria probably has used it to build a lead in the fight. Nino in the last couple of rounds, very effective with those lead right hands over the top.
So I've been away for a few rounds, guys, to do some interviews with Pacquiao and Morales. What's been happening?
Well, to me, my opinion, you have to talk to the expert over there, Mr. Harold. But I think that Nino has won these last couple of rounds with the clean, effective punches. And Brian is fighting the perfect fight for Nino by giving him space, letting him land clean punches, and then getting away and rested in between.
Go here behind the head, my man, okay?
A near clash of heads in there, and Viloria was concerned about it. He's had 2 or 3 conversations with Joe Cortez. Nino remains fixated on Viloria as he looks for his opportunities to throw the lead right hand, left hooks to the body, and counter punches when Viloria launches his big shots.
And he's even been able to land some jabs between the gloves of Brian, which is surprising.
Straight right hand, left hook combination for Brian Viloria. Every time he throws, Omar Nino is throwing in return as he tries to counter every shot now, these last 2 or 3 rounds.
Stop! Stop.
Well, it looks to me, Emmanuel, that Nino knows he was in the hole and is coming to be a little bit more aggressive.
He's fighting with a lot more urgency, and he's throwing body punches. Then next time he attacked, he went to the head.
So Viloria is waiting on him because of that.
Yeah,
very much like in the first fight.
Right.
Well, I think Brian feels he's got a pretty comfortable lead, especially with the 2-point round with the knockdowns, possibly. But really, from this point on, the last 3 rounds, I have Nino slightly sliding ahead.
Right. Nino has been busier, has been more aggressive,
and more
particularly with that straight right hand over the top. And Viloria, once again, has fallen into the pattern of looking to land something big.
Yeah, Brian is...
And down goes Nino on a Viloria right hand. He did land something big.
Right hand right to the side of the head.
And that could change those rounds I missed.
That could change everything. And it gives you an idea of how many Manny Pacquiao rooters there are going to be in the stands later tonight.
Right.
Because the crowd that rose for Viloria's knockdown of Nino, the second knockdown of the fight, was the Pacquiao crowd.
It's good to be a puncher.
Maybe he needed me back at ringside.
Let's get some Vaseline on his body now. It was only a lucky punch. How you feeling?
Right here, said great right hand, right on the chin, right on the shoulders. Another right hand, which was partly off balance, but I think he'd been hurt from the first right hand.
But the significant point is that is a 3-point punch. He was losing the round, and suddenly he gets a 2-point round. That could be the whole difference in the fight.
That's one of the reasons why punchers have so much confidence in big fights. They feel like they've always got a chance. Harold Letterman as the action heats in the 10th. I'm going to take a chance. Let's quickly hear your scorecard. Go ahead, Harold.
Okay, Jim. 6 rounds to 3, 87-82, Brian Viloria. Jim, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Through rounds 6, 7, and 8, Brian Viloria did nothing but look at him. It was so bad, I was going to get up and scream punch. In the 9th round, he opened up with that right hand, knocked him down, and now he's got a commanding 5-point lead. 6-3, Viloria.
Good left hook inside by Viloria there. Nino realizes now he needs to sell out a little bit more. 3 rounds to go in the fight. Behind on the scorecards. Knocked down twice. Never has lost a point for low blows, although he's won twice early in the fight. Omar Nino realistically has to see himself winning these next 3 rounds to give himself a chance in the fight.
Jim, when he stopped Arce, who was then a young teenager, in the 1st round, according to Arce, he almost had him knocked out, and Nino came back and landed a punch that was so big they stopped the fight.
Well, he's nothing if not resilient. He's shown that in this fight, where you could have counted him out a couple of times in the fight, and both times he came back and mounted rallies to put himself back in position to perhaps win it. And let's see if he's got one more rally left in him as Brian Viloria backs him off with a good little left hook.
Now Viloria can afford to be patient because he knows Nino has to take chances.
But still, every time they punch from close distance, Brian still always gets the advantage because of his shorter and more accurate punches. And as you see right there, Nino has to have room because he loops his punches.
But give Nino another A for effort. He's trying to think his way through another win over Brian Viloria. It's just that tonight, Viloria is better than he was several months ago.
Very determined tonight, too.
I say several. That fight was August 10, so it was really only 3 months and 8 days ago. Viloria wanted to get back in a hurry.
Well, and he had a rematch clause undoubtedly, and he was the looming star of this division, so he gets a chance to turn around the loss.
Nino appears to be bleeding from a cut in his scalp, just beyond the hairline in that dark thatch of hair. And I believe it's blood from that cut that is on the left side of Brian Viloria's face.
There also seems to trickle from near the bridge of his nose.
Well, that cut we've covered earlier. Yeah, Larry, that happened while you were gone, and that cut was caused by a punch. And it is indeed a small slice cut across the bridge of Nino's nose.
All right, get some air. We'll work on the cut. You got to throw more punches. Throw your right hand more. More your right hand. You make a miss, but you got to connect.
All right?
Yeah.
Agua. Let's get busy, all right, Brian?
Seconds out. Diaz.
Rounds 11 and 12 coming up. Brian Viloria trying to take back from Omar Nino a title belt in the 108-pound weight class, which he lost to him on August 10. Power shots in the 10th round. Viloria 13 out of 37. That's his high number for the fight. Nino 7 out of 33. So a confident Viloria fought better in the 10th than did his opponent. And I mentioned before that I thought Nino might need to win the last 3 rounds to give himself a chance in the fight. Incidentally, I mentioned that he's bleeding from a cut behind his hairline, and we were told between rounds by the Nevada State Athletic Commission that that cut was caused by an accidental headbutt.
To any chance of winning this fight, I think on Nino's part is going to have to be by knockout. The decision is definitely out of the question, especially with those 2 knockdowns scored against him, plus losing the majority of the rounds on top of that.
Well, if he got one of the early rounds and he sweeps these last couple of rounds, could be very close.
Based on what I've saw in decisions, Larry, I cannot argue with you.
But, I mean, the critical point, which you've made twice, Manny, is that Viloria has insurance. He has the 2 knockdown points.
But that's what I like right there. You know, and it's hard to see them overcoming those things.
One of the knockdowns was kind of a scrape knockdown. Half off balance was Nino when Viloria managed to put him down with a right hand that really was a glancing blow. The second knockdown was a good, solid right hand inside.
There was a little question about the action knockdown, but the one before that was the better punch. I thought the last one was more.
Right, the right hand that set up the right hand.
Yeah,
really
set it up.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, they were knockdowns because anything that, whether the punch lands on any part of the body, counts as a knockdown.
Good quick left hook inside by Viloria as Nino was throwing to the right side, or left side of Viloria's body, I should say.
Yeah, that's, you see this speedier and shorter accurate punches coming from Brian when you get in close.
And Nino, who needs to do a lot now, isn't doing enough because he's reticent to throw at times. Viloria has made his point with powerful counter shots. Right hand body shot for Nino.
Now he's going to probably go to the head probably the next time.
But he's landed his straight right hand flush in full arc a couple of times.
That's the right hand to the head.
Just like that.
That's what
and Viloria has taken the punch well.
Yeah, he throws the body punches on purpose just to set up for the come up with a big right hand to the head after that.
Time. 1 round to go.
Brian, this is the round of your life, son. You either got to win this round or we fucking might as well go home right now, son.
Yeah,
all right?
Yeah. Ryan, win it. It's in your hands, baby. I'm telling you now. This is the round. Take it home now, baby.
Okay,
you got it.
Last round, we touch him up, all right?
Close your eye, Brian. Close your eye. Son, give it all you got. There's no tomorrow, Brian. We got to win this round.
Last round, this is it, the 12. We need this round. You got to win it. Because of the 2 knockdowns, you're behind. You won the last round. Yeah, we got to get this round now.
We got to win this round big.
Both corners showing a sense of urgency.
In the scoring, what the Viloria needs is 6 rounds to win the fight. What Nino needs to get a draw because of the 2 knockdowns is 7 rounds.
If I was in Nino's corner, I would never even be mentioning anything about a round. I would be going for the knockout. I mean, I wouldn't even mention trying to win a round. That's out of the question now.
I agree with you. Realistically, he's got to try for a knockout.
He's got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Every punch should be with knockout.
I was impressed with the urgency of Viloria's manager, Gary Gittleson, who took the unusual step of going up the steps into the corner. Come on, Brian, this is the round of your life. Obviously, Gittleson feels that Viloria's big-time career is on the table here in this fight.
Which I cannot figure that out. But anyway.
Well, for Ramiro, the stakes are whether he's going to have to fix the 20-year-old car or get a new one.
Winning the last round is always good, Tom. It's good insurance policy.
You got to like the stomach that Nino is showing and going in here and trying to land something big in the first minute of the 12th. Viloria is just waiting for Nino to make a mistake that he can counter.
He seems reluctant, despite all the urging from his corner, to seize this. To seize the title.
When he crowds him and punches with short, right there, that's when he's the most effective. That's why he should go in and force those exchanges, because his punches will always be a split second faster.
So far, if anything, Nino's been busier in the round, but Viloria has landed a couple of good, clean counter shots when Nino has rushed him.
Brian can afford to have these type of rounds right now because he's got to fight one as far as I can see.
That may be what he's thinking, even despite the fact that his corner was urging him to go fight the round of his life.
You know, he's not supposed to think. He's supposed to fight.
It's fascinating. Despite the hype about his punching power, and certainly it's there when he gets a chance to land solidly, Viloria reminds me a little bit of Rocky Juarez. He's more passive than his gifts ought to allow him to be.
Yes, you know, Rocky was the same way, and that's what really cost him dearly in the rematch with Barrera.
He just doesn't seem willing to sell out and show the intensity and the commitment that his corner asked him for. Nevertheless, the fighter believes he's won the fight. He's within his rights in doing what he thinks is the right thing. He's on the canvas. He's in the ring. And Brian Viloria may well have taken a title belt back on what was probably not his best night.
Well, you still should try to close big in the last round. I thought Lennox Lewis had won his fight very easily with Evander Holyfield, but I asked for a big 12th round. He looked at me like I was crazy, but he gave it to me and found out if he hadn't won the 12th round big, he wouldn't have even got a draw.
Amazing.
So that's why it's always good to close the show.
So both fighters have been lifted, and now both fighters will celebrate. Harold Letterman, as you see, wound up with Viloria winning 115-111, and Harold gave the 12th round to Viloria. And we'll take a look at the judges who will be scoring the bout. Pretty familiar group. Carol Castellano, you've seen her in Las Vegas before. Scored Morales Barrera 1 and scored that fight 115-113 for Morales, who was the winner of Barrera. Morales 1. A lot of ringside observers thought the decision could have gone the other way. Samuel Conde of Puerto Rico, 66 title fights. He was the one who had Antonio Margarito ahead of Daniel Santos when a 10th round stoppage occurred, and Santos, there was a headbutt in the fight, got a technical win over Margarito, the only blemish on Margarito's record in recent years. Dave Moretti, 89 title fights. He was one of the 6 different Vegas judges who were involved in Taylor Hopkins, and like 5 in total, 4 of the others. Moretti scored Taylor the winner over Hopkins 115-113. Michael Buffer stands by with the official numbers on who has won this fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, by way of Win Las Vegas, we go to the scorecards. Dave Moretti scores about 115-112 for Nino. Carol Castellano and Samuel Conde both score it 113-113. The scoring comes out to a majority draw. The champion retains his title.
Brian Viloria knocked Omar Nino down twice,
but he didn't win more than half of the rounds. He won 7 rounds on those 2. He won 5 rounds. So the 2 extra points he gets for the knockdowns result in a draw.
CompuBox numbers in the fight. Nino landing more, throwing 12 punches fewer, landing at a slightly higher connect percentage. Viloria, perhaps too much waiting again. Power shots. And you'll see that Nino landed more power punches probably. Still to come tonight. 3 more fights on the card. A beautiful, crystal clear night in Las Vegas. Gotta love November in Vegas. Juan Carlos Salgado against Marcus Licona. Featherweight fight coming up. It's a showcase for Salgado, who has 18 wins, 16 knockouts, 21 years old. Then Ricardo Torres made a tremendous showing against Miguel Cotto in Atlantic City last year. Had Cotto down, had him in trouble, wound up getting knocked out in a real gunfight against Mike Arnoutis, who is hoping to become the greatest boxer ever from the nation of Greece. He originates from Athens, now lives just outside Atlantic City. And finally, the main event. Much anticipated, the 3rd bout in a trilogy involving Manny Pacquiao and Érik Morales. Each man has won once. Tail of the tape now. for this fight, which is about to take place in the featherweight division. Juan Carlos Salgado, 21 years old, as I mentioned. He has a 5-inch height advantage over Marcus Licona. Human bodies are strange things, though. Licona has a 1-inch arm length advantage measured from the armpit to the end of the fist. Licona weighed in under the 126-pound limit. Salgado, by contractual agreement, able to weigh in 2 pounds over the weight class limit at 128. He weighs 136 tonight. Licona comes in at 139. Rules of the bout with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
The Juan Carlos Salgado Marcos Licona fight is scheduled for 6 rounds using the unified rules of the Association of Boxing Commissions. There is no 3 knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight. In case the cut is caused by an accidental headbutt, we go to the scorecards after 3 rounds have been completed, and you cannot be saved by the bell of any round, including the 6th and final round. Jim.
Marcus Licona hails from Mexico City. He's the classic kind of opponent that you see in a fight like this because he has 32 fights. He has won 23 of the fights, but he only has 8 knockouts. Translation, not a big puncher. And as you're bringing a guy like Salgado along, Emmanuel Stewart, that's one of the things you look for.
You want a guy that's going to extend your guard. Maybe he'll win the fight, but you want to make sure he gets the experience of going the rounds. And this is exactly what Licona looked like he brings to the table.
Licona, earlier in his career, got a late assignment and entered the ring against Juan Manuel Marquez, who's the main man of the moment, the 126-pound weight class. Marquez more or less blanked Licona, who landed in single figures throughout much of that fight.
Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, by way of Win Las Vegas, this contest is brought to you by Top Rank Incorporated, sponsored by PokerStars.net and Budweiser. At ringside, the 3 judges scoring this bout will be Chuck Jampa, Bill Graham, and Dolby Shirley. And inside the ring, your referee in charge of the action, Kenny Bayless. And now a special 6-round contest. This is in the featherweight division. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing green with red and white. Official weight, 125 pounds. Professional record, 23 victories, including 8 knockouts, 8 defeats with 1 draw. Damas y caballeros de Ciudad de Mexico, Marcos Licona. Fighting out of the red corner, wearing white with blue trim. Official weight, 128 pounds. His professional record, 16 victories, including 13 KOs, only 1 draw. También de Ciudad de Mexico, the undefeated, Juan Carlos Salgado.
Okay, unrobe him. Ring center. Ring center. Now, gentlemen, trunks are very high here. Punches thrown in this area will be considered a clean punch. Now, gentlemen, we went over the rules in the dressing room. I want to caution to keep the fight clean, protect yourself, and what I say you must obey. Touch up, good luck, buenas suerte.
Okay, compadre.
Salgado's trunks are so long, I'm tempted to call them clam diggers.
I was going to make a mention that there's 2 pair of trunks that he's got on. The amount of material that's using it right there is 2 pair of trunks right there.
Well, he's got a lot of, well, the longer they are, the more endorsements he can carry on them.
Well, he's got a lot of empty endorsement space there, but I guess that's in anticipation of future success. And we'll see what Salgado shows in what is clearly a showcase for him against Marcus Licona. Not sure when I've seen a featherweight who's as long as Juan Carlos Salgado.
Long featherweight, long bridges on.
Well, there was one, Jim. His name escapes me for a moment. He was on the scene for a while, fought some of the top guys. I'll get the information from Harold, who knows all this stuff.
Good left hook inside by Salgado, momentarily stunned Licona.
Both of these guys are from Mexico City. I wonder what's the likelihood that they've sparred with each other before in Mexico.
Well, one hint would be that Salgado, whom I haven't seen here in Las Vegas before, doesn't look at all nervous. Looks very much at home in the fight. So maybe he knows Licona pretty well.
Yeah, he may have had a pretty good amateur background also.
Solid 1-2 by Salgado's quick with the right hand, Manny. That was a devastatingly quick right hand shot inside.
Yeah, I heard a lot of talk about him from his manager, I think, who's acting also as an assistant, Ricardo Maldonado.
That's the former manager of Marco Antonio Barrera.
Yes, he's very, very high on this guy. He says that Salgado is a very good prospect.
Salgado using Licona's aggression to set up most of his shots here in the first round, and he hurts Licona momentarily with another little quick right hand. Salgado can punch, and he's letting him go early.
Yep.
Licona gets in a left hook. Salgado walks right through it.
He throws overhand rights, and then he comes up with left uppercuts right between the gloves.
And he's got Licona going with good right hands over the top.
He might punch himself out a little bit here.
Well, he's doing the same thing over and over, but I think Licona is probably too groggy to take advantage of that.
Salgado throwing from various different angles. Gets a couple of body shots under Licona's guard. Now swinging freely with the left hook. There's blood coming out of the left nostril of Marcos Licona. Another right hand over the top by Salgado, and he stuns Licona again. Good body shot by Salgado. Throws freely with both hands.
Yeah, right now he's just physically just taking advantage of his opponent. And Licona seems to be a little soft around the body.
Salgado's showing you a little defensive skill as well. Ducks and slips effectively and throws as soon as he can. Terrific first round against perhaps an opponent against whom he knew he could do it. Marcos Licona and Juan Carlos Salgado. And in both corners, our interpreter is Ray Torres. They'll be speaking Spanish, both in the red and the blue corner.
You feel hurt? You gotta be alive, smart. You gotta let your hands go faster. The right hand and the uppercut. That's it. The combination. Right hand, uppercut. That's it. The uppercut and the right hand. You're working good. You're working real good.
Right here you see Salgado throw a great right hand, and then he followed that up with a left uppercut, and he continued to try that same combination for the rest of the entire round.
And they asked him to keep doing it between rounds, so we may see more of that right cross, left uppercut combination. In round one, by CompuBox count, Salgado threw 125 punches, landed 52 of them, including 50 of 97 power shots. Let's see if, as Larry Merchant suggested, he's a little punched out to begin round two.
Well, even if he's punched out, I think Licona is just too slow to take advantage of anything anyway, so he can pretty much get his second win and pick back up again whenever he chooses to.
And it looks like he is indeed hunting for that second win at this moment.
Yeah, he is, and Licona is just a little too slow.
So there's no danger to Salgado, really, as he takes his time and waits for his energy to return, and there it is. And now there's blood coming from the nose of Salgado as he got hit with a return punch by Licona. A lot of blood coming out of the nose of Salgado. Dripping. Licona's left eye is swelling a little bit, but he now has new energy as he realizes he's gotten Salgado to bleed, and Salgado is backing up just a little bit more precipitously now.
As a matter of fact, the volume of punches of Salgado just really went down to 0 for the most part as compared to the first round.
Boxing is not a 100-meter sprint.
As a lot of young, inexperienced fighters soon learn.
No, unfortunately, it's a little more like the 800 meters, where you got to run close to all out all the way, and it's just a killer because you don't know if you're going to get there. Right hand lead for Salgado.
Salgado is a tall fighter, but he has a lot of work before he can get to be a top contender.
Because?
Well, first of all, he did the same thing over and over after he hurt the guy. He kept doing the same punch over and over and over. And as Larry said, he may have gotten a little exhausted. And right now, he should just box a little bit. A much more spirited fighter, he would be in trouble with at this point in time.
One thing we've seen for certain in the second round, he doesn't like the taste of his own blood. Who does? Salgado looping that right hand over the top after I was bragging for him in the first round about how quick he was with the right.
Well, I think the veteran fighter senses that the younger fighter is a little tired and worn. Salgado is 21 years old.
Salgado didn't throw a single body punch until the last 20 seconds of the round. Then he got it in a couple of good ones, and they'll be working to stop the blood from Salgado's nose over in his corner between rounds. December 2, Winky Wright, one of the sport's top fighters, squares off with former 147-pound champ Ike Quarte in a middleweight bout. Also that night, former 168-pound champion Jeff Lacey returns to the ring for the first time since losing to Joe Calzaghe earlier this year. Lacey will take on Vitaly Sipko. 1 week later, Jermaine Taylor defends his middleweight championship in his hometown of Little Rock, Arkansas. Taylor will face former 154-pound champion Kasim Uma.
The right hand, throw it to the body, don't hold back. And then the left hook to the body.
Emmanuel Stewart, you'll be working with Jermaine Taylor in preparation for his bout against Kasim Uma. What will you tell the middleweight champion of the world about Uma?
He's in there with a machine, and he don't expect Uma to throw a volley of punches like Winky did and take a little slight break. Uma throws punches, and throws punches. So you better be prepared for a rough 12-round fight in case it goes a limit.
Now the blood is still dripping from Juan Carlos Salgado's nose as round 3 begins. So they were not able to stop the flow of blood from his nose between rounds. And that blood is flowing down across his top lip into his mouth, where then he swallows it. How distracting, Emmanuel.
Yeah, and he seems to be a little bit tentative about that, too. I think it's distracting to him. It shouldn't be, but right now it seems like it's bothered him a lot more than it should.
Certainly his pace has slowed dramatically since that first round when he threw 125 punches and landed 52.
And even his punches don't have that much speed or snap. But it's fortunate he's in with an opponent that's extremely slow, too, especially for a small guy to be only 126 pounds.
This fight is only scheduled for 6 rounds. At the beginning, it looked as though it surely would not be going the distance, but things have changed dramatically since round number 1. And now Salgado is standing in the corner and allowing Licona to rake him with clean shots. And it's possible that Licona won the second round. If he wins this one, he could be ahead on scorecards in the fight. That would be a shocker.
Sometimes, although rarely, the showcase you want is not the showcase you get.
Salgado with a couple of good left hooks to figuratively stop the bleeding, but literally the bleeding continues.
Licona is just so slow and methodical that even though he's fighting a bad fight, I think that for the most part, Salgado can still hit him whenever he wants to.
Licona getting in a couple of really good body shots and a quick left hook. Salgado, who threw so much in the first round, now gets outthrown by Licona when they stand and trade. Low blow by Salgado, and Kenny Bayless saw it.
So here, a little 6-round fight for a promising fighter. Turns out to be a bloody battle for survival.
But earlier tonight, we saw a great fight by Vanis Barderosa. He fought a tremendous fight. Showed a lot of skill, even though he's had 10 fights, but it was very impressive to me tonight.
Member of the Athens Olympic team in the United States, and the pride of the American-Armenian community, many of whom came up from Glendale to watch Vanis fight.
Very good performance tonight.
154-pounder Vanis Marderosian. Now, Salgado switches to a southpaw stance, throws a lead left hand. That makes it, in effect, a lead left cross, and lands it against Licona. Salgado decides to stay in the southpaw stance. Now switches back conventional.
You can tell he's a little flustered. He's winning the fight, but this is not what he's expected, and perhaps not what he's experienced before.
Well, you know, we were asking earlier, who could you remember as a tall, long-armed featherweight? This guy was, at one point, a pretty tall, long-armed featherweight. Érik Morales, who now waits in his dressing room to fight Manny Pacquiao at 130 pounds. When he lost to Pacquiao in their second fight, Morales attempted to negotiate the third fight at a new weight level of 135 pounds. But the rematch clause in the contract was written for the original weight level of 130. And Manny Pacquiao's people alertly and intelligently said, no, we're not going up 5 more pounds to fight the longer, taller Érik Morales. If you want to fight, you've got to make 130. That set up a big challenge for Morales, who was already well overweight after a sedentary period of rest following that fight. Morales made weight at 129 yesterday. His supporters cheered uproariously, celebrating the fact that he appears to be back in the kind of shape he'll need to fight at his best level. Harold, how do you have it through 3?
Okay, Jim, I got a 3-0, 30-27, won Carlos Salgado. Jim, I got to tell you something. I got a theory about this, and my theory is this. Whenever you get them long, lean guys that are big punches, very, very often they hurt their hands because of the thin bone structure. Emmanuel will tell you all about Tommy Hearns, who was the same way. And it may be the case here because this guy certainly is not punching as much as he did in the first round. 3-0, Salgado.
To go back to the Morales weight story, Jim, he had a pretty good incentive for making 130, which was that he'd get fined penalized $500,000 for every pound over that.
Indeed, joking with the writers 2 days ago, and they asked him what his weight status was. He thought about the 130-pound limit and said, well, I'm about $1 million over. He was $500,000 under when he got on the scale yesterday.
No reward for that.
CompuBox numbers through 3 rounds supported the notion that Harold Lederman has scored all 3 rounds for Salgado. He's more or less doubled Licona in terms of connected punches. But to compare the second and third rounds to the first round, it's really 2 different fights. Ever since the blood started streaming from Salgado's nose, his punches haven't been as hard or as frequent.
And maybe not just the blood, as Larry put out, maybe he just shot his wad that first round and may have been just tired. Blood may be coming down from his nose, but he may have just gotten tired.
Well, what about Harold's point that long, slender-boned fighters like this are more susceptible to hand problems?
Well, that could be the case, but I don't think that's the case here. He's punching good. I think he just he may have shot his wad, and he's really gangly. He's long arm, but he doesn't have that sharp crispness of some of the tall fighters, like Vernon Forrest and some of them. His punches are a little gangly the way he delivers them.
In other words, Emmanuel, you don't see this guy as championship material.
Not the way he's going. He's tall, but a more aggressive type of a guy with a lot more spirit, like a Pacquiao or something like that, would be a real problem for him. Because he doesn't use his reach a lot. The guys get close right into him, and if this guy had more speed, he would have a problem.
But he's fighting a gutsy fight.
Gutsy fight, but I didn't realize he's had 17 fights already. I'm speaking about Vanis has 10 fights. Thought that Vanis had more. He's got more fight than Vanis.
I'm still getting over Brian Viloria knocking Omar Nino down twice and getting a draw in his second fight with Nino, allowing Nino to keep that title belt he got from Viloria back in August. And once again, for every fighter, there's somebody out there whose style is just going to give you problems, perhaps inexplicably. It may not be easy for Brian Viloria to figure out why he has so much trouble with Omar Nino.
You know, but the math works. If Nino won 7 rounds, that neutralizes the 2 knockdowns, and there's your draw.
I did not see him winning 7 rounds. That's why I have to accept the decision, but I don't go along with it. And I'm not going to try to create a way of saying that it's right. He won the fight, and that's it. But I just didn't see him winning that fight.
Now, while they work on these 2 fighters between rounds, we're going to return to the Érik Morales making weight story so that we can show you a picture. Before and after. Morales, August 12th, on the right of your screen. Morales yesterday. 2 different people? Well, in a manner of speaking, yes.
I saw Morales that night at a restaurant. I walked right by him. I didn't know it was him until I saw some of the people around him. That was back in August.
Was it a Mexican restaurant?
No, it happened to be a French restaurant, Jim.
It looks as though he's been to the creperie. But he's all right now. CompuBox numbers in round 4. Salgado 37 out of 105. That's his most active round since the first round. Licona landed 23 out of 86. Those were both high numbers in the fight for Licona. So Salgado's punching in the first round kept Licona from throwing. His punching in the 4th round allowed Licona to throw. That's what happens when you're not throwing as hard or as crisply. Fifth round of a scheduled 6. Juan Carlos Salgado hasn't done enough yet to discourage Marcus Licona. The shorter fighter continuing to bear in on the unbeaten fighter with whom he is sharing a showcase. And now the blood begins to drip again from the nose of Juan Carlos Salgado.
Work out. No detengas. Work out. Watch out.
Some fighters' noses never break. Some fighters' noses break in every fight. Why, Manny?
It's just the way they're structured. In fact, it's strange. You look at Muhammad Ali. Never had any nose problems, anything, all those great fights. Sugar Ray Robinson, Oscar De La Hoya, some of those handsome fighters. But it's just the way that the body's just, tissues are put together in certain individuals.
Now, you heard that was an accidental headbutt, which caused the bleeding now from the left eye of Marcus Licona. Dr. Capana taking a look and allowing Licona to continue after the request from referee Kenny Bayless.
Licona has no defense for right hands. He just chews them up when they come. I've never saw him try to duck it, try to block it. He just gets hit with right hands all night long. If you don't hit him, it's because you didn't throw it.
Juan Carlos Salgado threw hard in the first round and has kept throwing, but has not landed any power shots with the same kind of zip in rounds 2 through 5 as has been the case in round 1. There's a pretty good hard right hand shot, but nowhere near as sizzling as the stuff he threw in the first round. He's getting Licona to bleed rather profusely, though, and that helps.
And, you know, he's landing the punches. Even when he throws them looping off straight, he still lands the right hands.
Stop, no detengas.
Good right hand lead by Salgado. Good thought, feinted left, threw with the right. Now he moves right, throws with the left. Licona says, I don't understand all that crazy stuff you're doing. Why don't you stand still so I can hit you? One round to go in Juan Carlos Salgado versus Marcus Licona. Manny Pacquiao doesn't have trouble making weight. Pacquiao, who first arrived on these shores as a 122-pound star, made a tremendous splash here in 2001 against a tremendously highly regarded South African fighter named Lejanolo Ledwaba, and has been on a star arc ever since. Pound for pound, probably the hardest left-hand puncher in the sport.
Yeah, and so much energy.
Tonight, Manny Pacquiao weighs 144 pounds after having weighed in yesterday at 129. Érik Morales weighed in at 129 and weighs only 139. So, in a reversal of past form, as they enter the ring tonight, unofficially, Pacquiao will be the heavier of the two fighters.
I find that quite surprising.
Well, Bob Arum would tell you that that has to do with the way Morales made weight. That rather than crashing down to weight, as has always been the case before, this time he really worked, really did the right kind of exercise, and therefore is in the kind of shape which doesn't require that extreme rehydration overnight that we've seen in the past.
I have a different idea about it, but nevertheless, I don't think it's good.
Well, that's Arum's idea. What's your idea?
I think he lost weight too much the wrong way. There's 3 or 4 different ways, and I think as a result, even when he tried to eat after making weight, his stomach had shrunk so much that he couldn't even eat so much. And I think it's going to work to Pacquiao's advantage.
Well, that would mean perhaps Manny Pacquiao simply overpowering Érik Morales tonight. And that, I guess, is a possibility in the wake of what Pacquiao was able to do to Morales in the last 4 rounds of the fight earlier this year.
Yeah, that's basically his style anyway, but I think it's going to be easier if Morales doesn't have some type of a strength.
You'll find out when they enter the ring. This is the final round of the scheduled 6 between Juan Carlos Salgado in the white slam-digging pants and Marcus Licona in the white trunks with red trim.
I actually do believe that maybe that Salgado may have hurt his right hand the way he's throwing it. He isn't closing up his hands at all, and he's just looping the punches nowadays, as if he may have hurt his right hand.
But still throwing it. There's a good solid left-hand shot to the body by Salgado, who has been smart enough to go to the body frequently here in the last round to try to ensure his win in this showcase fight. This fight has been close enough since the first round that I don't think it is necessarily all salted away for Salgado. He's got to make certain, in my view, that he wins this round. Doesn't leave the judges any room. Salgado, for the second time in the fight, fighting out of a southpaw stance, and Licona says that doesn't fool me much. Let me hit you with the right hand over the top.
I think that's still reflective of possibly an injury to the right hand.
It's possible, Manuel, but we don't know it.
Well, certainly the right hand has not been nearly as potent in the last 5 rounds of the fight as it was in round number 1. Fans sitting quietly here now through the last round of Salgado Licona. One more fight on the card prior to the main event, and that one could be a thriller, because Ricardo Torres of Colombia is one of the most exciting punchers in the world. This fight comes to a spirited close. 2 Mexico City fighters, Juan Carlos Salgado and Marcos Licona, and Licona, the journeyman, who came in with a record of 23-8-1, gets lifted to the shoulders of his cornermen. A way for them to say to him, hey, you gave a good effort in what wasn't supposed to be your show.
Emmanuel, is all that corner stuff and celebrating before the decision rendered supposed to be some psychological ploy for the officials or for the fans?
Yes,
what?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times, put him on your shoulders, get him on your shoulders. You know, look like a winner. They may have the judges make that final decision. No, that's what that's all about.
I guess ever since Ray Leonard threw his hands in the air against Marvelous Marvin Hagler back in 1986, that was the way to do it.
Well, he was a master at it.
Yeah, but in the meantime, the judges have their heads buried in their scoring cards.
Taking a look at the bios of the judges who were scoring this one. Chuck Jampa, one of the better-known judges around, and Bill Graham, who was a former fighter himself, 64 title fights. Had Guzman beating Barrios by a single point. Joan Guzman, terrific-looking, unbeaten fighter at 130 pounds. Dalby Shirley had Érik Morales the winner over Marco Antonio Barrera in the first of their 3 fights. Morales got that win. A lot of ringside observers thought it should have gone the other way, but of course, all 3 of those fights were very close. Now let's go to ring announcer Michael Buffer for the official decision on this one.
Courtesy of Wynn Las Vegas, ladies and gentlemen, we go to the scorecards. Chuck Jampa and Bill Graham both score the bout 60-54. Dalby Shirley scores at 59-54. All to the winner by unanimous decision, still undefeated, Juan Carlos Salgado.
So Salgado gets his showcase win by unanimous decision over Licona. And final CompuBox numbers will show you Salgado throwing and landing more punches, throwing 111 more, landing twice as many, landing at a 35% connect percentage, but Licona with a hard head. Salgado may have damaged his right hand in the fight, and for only the 4th time, he wins without a knockout. Still to come tonight, Ricardo Torres against Mike Arnudis. That'll be coming up next, and Torres, of course, is the hard puncher from Colombia who had a shootout in Atlantic City last year with Miguel Cotto, one of the most exciting fights of the year. Had Cotto in trouble, had him down, but ultimately got knocked down 4 times himself in a fight he had taken on only 3 weeks' notice, and that's his only loss. He has 29 wins, and 27 of them are by knockout. Arnudis is unbeaten. And then Manny Pacquiao against Érik Morales for the 3rd time. Pacquiao trying to continue the star arc, which has taken him to the top 3 of the pound-for-pound rankings in the sport. Tail of the tape now for Ricardo Torres against Mighty Mike Arnudis. And they've been in the sport about the same period of time. Arnudis is 10 months older than Torres. Arnudis with a 2-inch height advantage. The arm length advantage of a 1/2 inch goes to Ricky Torres. They both weighed in a pound or 2 under the 140-pound limit, I should say. Arnudis gained 6 pounds overnight to 144. Torres rehydrates 12 pounds all the way to 151. Rules of the bout with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
The Ricardo Torres, Mike Arnudis fight is scheduled for 12 rounds using the unified rules that you see on your screen. Jim, real quick, the 4 criteria that the judges will use to score each individual round: clean punching, effective aggressiveness, ring generalship, and defense, with a strong emphasis on clean, effective punching. Jim.
Mighty Mike Arnudis. 3 straight first-round knockouts, but power is less his game than his technique. He's tall, he's got a good jab, he is a skilled boxer. He wants to work behind that jab to try to neutralize the punching power of Ricardo Torres.
There has only been one Greek-born fighter we could find who had ever held the title. He was a light heavyweight in the early 40s named Anton Christopoulos, who lived in Ohio.
Arnudis is originally from Athens, lives now just outside Atlantic City, New Jersey. Brought to this country by a manager from England, Mike Michael, who scouts Greece and the surrounding area looking for fighting talent. He says Arnudis is the best he's found, and incidentally, Arnudis' co-trainer is Bill Johnson. About 18 months ago, Johnson's son, Levander, died as the result of injuries he sustained in a fight here against Jesus Chavez, and this is the first time Bill Johnson has been back in Las Vegas since his son died. And here is the man who will be fighting his fighter, Mike Arnudis, Ricardo Torres. He took the fight against Miguel Cotto in Atlantic City on 3 weeks' notice, and what a splash he made, Emmanuel.
I was very impressed. That's why I want to see him again. You know, whether it was just at one time, sudden great fight, great night, and then he can't sustain that same performance again. But I was very impressed that night. It was the same night that I think Vladimir Klitschko was fighting Sam Peter.
And one thing that Cotto learned that night, almost disastrously so, was that when he decided to trade punches with Ricardo Torres, Torres had the faster hands and had him outgunned in those trades.
And a very accurate puncher, too. He's a very, very sharp puncher. It's going to be very interesting to see how he deals with another young fighter coming up today.
Ultimately, he got sledgehammered to the body, as has virtually every Cotto opponent so far. And that ranks as his only loss. So between the two fighters, they've lost one fight. That was Cotto's knockout of Torres when Torres took the fight on 3 weeks' notice. Arnudis versus Torres is for a vacant belt in the 140-pound weight class. Let's go to ring announcer Michael Buffer now for the official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, by win of Las Vegas, Bob Arum's Top Rank Incorporated presents this next contest in association with Joe DeGuardia's Star Boxing and Win Las Vegas, sponsored by PokerStars.net and the King of Beers Budweiser. Sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission and the World Boxing Organization. At ringside, the 3 judges scoring this bout: Adelaide Berg, Harry Davis, and Jerry Roth. And inside the ring, referee in charge of the action, Tony Weeks. And now by way of Win Las Vegas, 12 rounds of boxing. This is for the vacant WBO Junior Welterweight Championship of the World. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing white trimmed with blue, official weight 138 pounds, professional record 17 victories including 9 knockouts, with 1 bout even. From Atlantic City, New Jersey, he's the WBO #1 ranked contender, the undefeated Mighty Mike Arnudis. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing blue, official weight 139 pounds. His professional record, 29 victories, including 27 knockouts, with only 1 defeat. From Barranquilla, Colombia, the WBO #2 ranked contender in the world, Ricardo Mochuelo Torres.
Okay, gentlemen, caballeros, you already received your instructions. Instead of receiving instrucciones, you go right here is okay. Influence is going to be low. Mira, aquí está bien, aquí no. Right here is okay, influence is going to be low. Aquí está bien, aquí no. I want a good, clean fight. Yo quiero una pelea limpia. Obey my commands at all times. Above all, protect yourselves at all times. Escúchame, cuídate, listos, ready? Let's go. Vámonos.
This is a serious test for Arnudis to see whether he can be an elite fighter. You knew him from the amateurs, didn't you, Daniel?
Yes, I knew him from the amateurs. But this is also a good test to me for his opponent, Torres, because outside of that one great fight that he had over here with Miguel Cotto, who, by the way, they're fighting for his title that he vacated and when he moved up to welterweight.
Mike Arnudis says he's never been down. Ricky Torres is a big puncher. This is the division which Miguel Cotto vacated to move up to welterweight. Ricky Hatton intended to vacate the division, now will come back down to 140 to fight Juan Urango for a title belt in January. The other title belts belong to Junior Witter of England and Suleiman Mbaye. Winner of this fight achieves a much more prominent profile than he brought into the ring.
Well, everybody's very high on Mike Arnudis. I haven't saw that much of him still myself. I know he's fighting a very, very talented fighter right here.
Right hand lead by Torres, left hand counter immediately by Mike Arnudis.
What I liked, the way Torres landed the right hand and then he moved right away back out of position to make sure he didn't get hit with a counter punch.
Arnudis came in on the strength of 3 consecutive 1-round knockouts. Looks as though he doesn't have that anywhere near on his mind at this moment. Looks as though he wants to fight an intelligent first round against Ricky Torres and not give anything away to Torres' big punching power. Right hand lead by Torres. Arnudis effectively backing away and then working his jab. Mighty Mike Arnudis focusing to the body early. Torres trying to land something upstairs. Arnudis has been conservative and has kept his gloves up.
You better keep your gloves up against Torres.
We've just been told that one of Manny Pacquiao's managers has been rushed to a hospital with high blood pressure. I have to assume that is not the famous Shelley Finkel. We'll wait for the identity of the manager. It is not Shelly Finkel. So those of you who are aware that Shelly manages Manny Pacquiao, he's not the one who went to the hospital. Find out who did. Very cautious first round between Arnudis and Torres. See the intelligence of Mike Arnudis, and you see the aggression of Torres. As soon as Arnudis throws, Torres is stepping forward, looking to counter big.
Torres is waiting to counter punch. He's fighting very, very cagey right now, taking his time, placing his punches very well, being very patient.
I believe, Tim, that the co-manager is Nick Khan.
Well, Nick is very young to be having high blood pressure, so let's hope that that isn't the situation either. Wait and see. I am just told that it is indeed Nick Khan, who has been rushed to the hospital with high blood pressure. So we wish Nick the best. Hope it's not too terribly serious. He's a young man. And when we go to the red corner, Ricky Torres will be speaking Spanish with his cornerman, our interpreter's Ray Torres. This is Bill Johnson, father of the late Levander Johnson, talking to Arnudis.
Okay, Mike. Keep going what you're doing with your jab. Bring your jab out. Keep that jab out. Listen, off your straight left hand. When it's there, take that right hand behind that elbow, all right? And then
the jab brings you closer, and then you hit him in the right hand, but keep your hands up.
Okay.
Let's get some Vaseline on the eyes. Cover yourself well, protect yourself good.
You probably noticed Arnudis' instructions are translated into Greek by his manager, Mike Michael. In round number 1, Ricky Torres 6 out of 39, Arnudis 5 out of 54. Both were cautious and conservative and respectful of their opponents. Good left hand by Arnudis. Now Arnudis starts to get some 1-2s off, opening up just a little bit and giving Torres more opportunities, which Ricardo tries to seize upon immediately.
Arnudis is fighting a very good fight, considering he didn't have the big amateur background of a lot of the kids. Very limited, but he's fighting a very intelligent fight against a very cagey fighter. Placing his punches very good. Neither fighter have been able to get a really good constant flow of any type of a rhythm yet.
Thomas Mack Center holds more than 18,000 in this configuration. Every seat is expected to be filled tonight. Both Pacquiao and Morales have deep, ardent followings. Pacquiao's fans, many of them fly in from the Philippines. 10 members of the Filipino Congress left Manila to come here to root for Manny. Morales' fans pile into their cars and their buses and ride up from Tijuana after they finish work at 6 on Friday.
One thing that's pretty obvious is not too much has happened, but it seems like Arnudis has much better balance with his footwork, moves in and out much more freely and fluently than Torres. Torres is a little stiff on his legs, and if Arnudis can punch and keep moving in and out, I think he can have a little success and maybe win a decision going down the stretch.
Right hand lead landed for Torres there. Arnudis landing his jab in return. Arnudis landed a solid body punch 2 sequences ago. Has a good left to the body there after Torres chases him to the ropes, throwing rights and lefts. Arnudis doing a good job ducking the counter right after throwing his own right.
He's much more flexible with his legs and his upper body movement.
Ricardo Torres is alert enough to counter constantly when Arnudis throws, but he has not been able to get inside with anything big, and Arnudis, with a conservative game plan, is gradually working things toward the boxing match he wants. Round 2 coming to a close. Arnautis gets in a body shot. Torres partially blocked with the right hand in return. And now let's go to the dressing room of Érik Morales for referee's instructions.
Things that I will be watching for: use of the forearms, elbows, shoulders, forehead, rabbit punches, kidney punches, and low blows.
Él va a estar viendo por golpes ilegales de antebrazo, de codo, de hombro, golpes detrás de la cabeza, golpes bajos, golpes en los riñones, y las mismas señales que él te dio aquí, él te las va a dar en el cuadrilátero.
I want you to obey my commands in there. Protect yourself at all times.
Obedece sus órdenes y protéjase siempre a todo momento.
¿Preguntas? Buena suerte. All right.
Buena suerte.
Gracias.
Buena suerte.
Yeah, if he goes back, go on him, yeah, and cut the ring off on him.
This fight is scheduled for 12 rounds. It's for a vacant 140-pound title belt. In the second round, Mike Arnautis threw 76 punches and landed 12 by CompuBox count. Ricardo Torres 7 out of 60. Arnautis busy now to begin the third round and landing body shots, Emmanuel Stewart. Intelligent investment early in the fight.
He's fighting a very good fight right now, you know, because the Torres is just not as coordinated. He's too stiff right now.
He's obviously a good puncher, but he's having difficulty closing the gap between him.
3-punch combination by Arnautis, followed by a couple of jabs.
That's why I said prior to the show, I wanted to see, was that just that great super night that he had that one night, which a lot of guys have, and may never find that same formula again.
In recent years, we've seen a number of fighters come from Colombia with gaudy knockout records and somehow not be able to cope with superior fighters.
Joel Julio against Carlos Quintana a couple of months ago. There were many of us in the sport, myself included, who had fallen so in love with Julio that we thought he was going to be one of the great fighters of his generation. But a very good boxer, Carlos Quintana, smoothed him in the hot weather here at Vegas, and now Julio seems to have lost some confidence.
And in this particular case here, just the fluid movement that seemingly Torres had when he fought Cotto, he's not showing it tonight. It's very stiff, and when he shoots his punches, he can't put combinations together too good and keep his feet moving with his hands as he's punching.
Cotto is not as quick as Arnautis and does not have the kind of extended jab that Arnautis can use from his southpaw stance. So it's a different piece of geometry here for Ricardo Torres.
And sometimes you never know the preparation. Maybe even though it was a 3-week notice, he might have been sparring with very good sparring at that time at home or whatever. And for this fight, maybe not training properly or not focused, whatever.
Increasingly, Arnautis' jab is a factor in the fight, as he is freer and freer in letting it go, and it's establishing a tempo which Torres has difficulty dealing with.
Torres is looking for the power punch with the right hand, and pretty much that's about it.
If Arnautis can keep his feet moving this way, keep going side to side, and keep pumping that jab, he's got the tactical advantage now. But there's a hard right hand from Torres, and a couple more power shots like that could change the fight.
Torres has put a lot of psychological and experience pressure on him, and that may make him fold as the fight goes on.
Torres beginning to focus on his straight right hand because of Arnautis' southpaw stance.
And this is a different league. Arnautis has never been in this league, I think, professionally or amateur. Good right hook by Arnautis.
The 3 consecutive knockouts I talked about for Arnautis against a fighter named Jose Moreno, Mark Thompson, Michael Walker. None of those guys is as good as Ricardo Torres.
No, he temporarily stunned Torres with a short right hook, and I don't think he realized it himself.
Don't worry about that. Good round. Okay, baby. You got him missing. You got him missing, all right? I want you to make him pay with some of that shot. Give him another. I want you to make him pay with some of them shots to the body. Sucking good, Mike. Okay. Now watch going straight back. He's trying to hit you with that looper, okay? Okay. You see the shots because you're getting under them. You get under them shots back.
Come on, you're fighting like if you had nothing. What are you, hypnotized? What's the matter with you? Let's go, open up. Come on, warm up in here. Come on. Deep breath, but you gotta put pressure.
Ricardo Torres' trainer, Orlando Pineda, not happy, asking Torres to wake up, do something more. Neither fighter has been able to do much offensively. They're both landing about 15-16% of their punches, but tactically, it's Arnudis who's fighting the fight the way he might want to fight it. And you saw that Bill Johnson was happy between rounds with the way his fighter is moving in the ring. Now Arnudis holding his hands up as Torres gets to swing away. Harold, how do you have it through three?
You know, Jim, I thought Ricardo Torres landed enough big right hands in the third round to win that round. I got a 2-1 Ricardo Torres in points, 29-28. Very close fight so far. It's the boxing of Mike Arnudis against that right-hander Ricardo Torres. And if Ricardo keeps landing it like he did just there, he's going to win the fight. 2-1 Torres.
I think that I have it even 1-1-1, but Torres is starting to cut off the ring better than he was earlier.
Well, Torres certainly listened to his trainer, Orlando Pineda, between rounds, because he's come out much more energetically here in the fourth round and is beginning to land some of those big shots on Arnudis. There he lands a sweeping left hook. 2 more straight right hands for Torres. Another straight right hand. And at this moment, Arnudis isn't throwing back.
He's letting Torres take control of the fight completely. And, you know, he's got to stand his ground and get some respect. He's got to fire something back. And he would probably be effective because Torres isn't looking for anything back, but you got to get some respect. You can't let a man just run you. And that's what he's doing. He's just forcing him to
Body
run.
shot by Arnudis. Torres comes back with another avalanche of punches. Now we've reached a point in the fight where if Arnudis throws once, Torres throws 6 or 7 times. Gets away with a low blow there. Tony Weeks saw it, said nothing. Arnudis' punches not nearly as resolute as they were in the first couple of rounds, and now Arnudis is being really bothered by Ricky Torres' power punches upstairs.
Well, the important thing is he's got Arnudis defensive, not firing back when Torres punches, like right there.
Now Arnudis tries to pump his jab again. Lead right hands by Ricardo Torres have turned the fight in his direction here in the fourth round.
Just pure aggression, just stepped it up a little bit, and the other guy really started to give in once he stepped it up a little bit, and that's been a big difference. Even the left hands that Arnudis is shooting seem like no power in them.
This is the moment at which the trainer from Colombia says to his fighter, see, I told you not to give him so much respect. Just go in there and throw.
At this stage, Torres is a little weary, a little tired. He's slow and clumsy. At this stage right now, Mike should step it up and drop some hard power punches on him.
But Arnudis' confidence has dropped, particularly after what happened in the first minute and a half of this round when Torres had his way.
Torres is very vulnerable, particularly with the right hook coming from Arnudis, if he would throw it.
How you feel? How you feel, man? Suck it up good. How you feeling? You all right? Okay, listen. Don't get no bang with him. Don't get no bang with him. Keep turning him and boxing. All right? Okay, listen. Run your straight left hand in right off of your jab sometime, right? Run your straight left hand right off of your jab and turn the right hand under. And come right back.
See what I told you? Yeah, don't just cover up, throw punches. He can't even punch. He's a powder puff puncher. Take him to the ropes and then hit him. Yeah. Look at me. You got to throw with the hard punches, overhand right, so he don't get out.
Ricardo Torres landed 33 out of 88 power shots in the fourth round after having landed 24 total punches in the preceding 3 rounds. So he completely changed the fight around after his corner simply asked him for more energy.
And you know what's interesting? I didn't see him land that much for his really clean hard power punch. He just bum rushed him, just kept rushing and pushing him all around the ring without landing any devastating punch.
Well, the same thing's happening again. He's throwing more and he's landing these punches again. And yeah, nothing is a huge power shot with perfect force and a flush landing, but he's getting the leather to Arnudis' face.
He's taking control of the fight and heading for a big victory, maybe even a knockout the way he's going. And Arnautis' trainer asked him to throw a straight left through the center, but most of his left hands are more like a club and hook.
Well, you've been saying that Torres is vulnerable to a right hook by Arnautis, and there he throws a right hook, lands it. Why is Torres so vulnerable to the right hook?
Because of the way he comes in, he has his left shoulder down when he comes in, and he doesn't seem to be looking. Most guys fighting southpaws are watching the left hand, watching the southpaw's left hand. And it's easy to catch him with a right hook when they come in, because they never look for it. And Torres is no exception. Right there, he got caught.
Good straight left hand by Arnautis. His best punch since round one.
This is a fight that Arnautis could win if he had the right mental stuff inside of him, where he would just sit down and dig down good. Because I don't think that much of Torres in this fight, personally, myself.
Body shot by Arnautis. Torres landing a left and a right upstairs. Now Arnautis lets go with 3-punch combination, 4-punch combination. Arnautis seeming gradually to get some of his confidence back here in the 5th.
And he need to quit throwing those straight left hands through the gloves. He would land more punches.
Torres throws so hard, sometimes when Arnautis blocks Torres's punches with the glove, Torres takes the glove right back onto Arnautis's face. That's sort of what Jermaine Taylor was doing half the night against Winky Wright.
Yeah, but even when Winky would take a break, Jermaine would punch back with so much power that even then Winky would block the punches, he still was banging through the gloves and still busting up Winky's face to some degree.
Spoken by the man who trained Jermaine Taylor in the fight, of course.
I don't see Torres doing a lot of damage, but he is throwing a lot of punches, and in a close round, that can be the difference.
That's exactly what I agree with you, Larry. And it's a fight that Arnautis could win easily because it's just who throws the punches.
So we're saying either fighter could win. It's a matter of who's able to keep his confidence up, establish the fight that he wants to fight, and stick with it.
Well, I think the most talented, believe it or not, is Arnautis between the two fighters. Just mentally, I don't know if he's tough enough.
But he hasn't looked as determined as Torres in the last 2 rounds. Let's go to Manny Pacquiao's dressing room between rounds to listen to referee's instructions there.
If your opponent goes down as a result of a punch onto the canvas or into the ropes, don't throw that last punch, because if you do, and I deem it to be a late blow and a harmful blow, instead of only giving him 10 seconds to recover, I'm going to call time, determine whether or not he can continue. If he can, I'll allow the bout to continue, but before I do, I'll take at least 1, possibly 2 points away from you as a result of what I deem to be the late blow. If he can't, it's an automatic disqualification. So if he goes down, stop, get back in that neutral corner.
And I can still punch if his gloves is not down.
Yeah, if he's not down, you can keep punching. But if he's helpless, you know, we both know, we've been around the game a long time. If he's down, you know he's down, don't take that last punch. It's not worth it, all right? Things I'll be looking for are the use of the forearm, elbow, shoulder, forehead, all right? No rabbit punches, kidney punches, or low blows, all right? Bottom line, obey my commands in there. Protect yourself at all times. Any questions at all?
Yes, sir.
Good luck to you. All right, ready?
Thank you.
Good luck.
As usual, Manny Pacquiao finishes with a smile, and we go to round 6 of the scheduled 12 between Ricardo Torres of Colombia in the blue trunks, Mike Arnautis of Atlantic City, originally from Athens, Greece, in the white.
I like what I see right now at this point in the round from Arnautis. He seems to be focusing now on being aggressive and doing some damage and not on just surviving.
Good body shot by Arnautis, tries to drop a left hand over the top, and then tries to show the referee that Ricky Torres hit him on the back of the head. Good left hand in the exchange by Mike Arnautis. Big left hook by Ricky Torres, and another left hook by Torres, and he just misses with the third one. Who says you can't land a left hook against a southpaw? Ricardo Torres has set some things up with the straight right hands he's landed in the last couple of rounds. Mike Arnautis is trying to take this back toward being a boxing match, but he's going to have to be aggressive and physical to do it.
I think he's fighting the right fight right now. Torres' legs look so weak and inside, and his balance is so bad.
So Arnautis is pounding him to the body when he can.
He's got to fight. I mean, he can't let the guy run. He's a man just like he is in the same weight. You can box him, but you're going to have to fight it sometime.
Torres is forcing him to fight his fight. Arnautis seems willing to do it. Can he?
I don't think he has a choice if he wants to win the fight. He can't run for 6 rounds.
Good right hand body shot by Arnautis. Torres is trying to find something upstairs, either the left or the right hand. Arnautis showed good variety in his choices in the first minute of this round.
I think that
there's a good left hand over the top.
And if he keeps doing it, it's going to be more of that. He could stop Torres if he steps it up. Torres has shot his best punches and has not been that effective yet. And I think that Arnautis has gotten over the mental, I hope, block that he had earlier. And if he does what he should do, he can win this fight easy.
I particularly think that body punching could turn the fight back around, Manny, because you pointed out Torres is not all that great on his feet.
No, I just think the general coordination. I think that Torres is slow and lumbering and very predictable. And more flexibility is with Arnautis.
Torres landed a left hook. Arnautis
there it is again.
Right hands there. That straight left hand. Yep. He's found it in this round.
He's been open for it all night. He has no balance at all.
Torres with a left over the top. And a good body shot with the right hand. Arnautis' best rally of the fight.
And that's what I like to see.
From Torres.
Now that's my kind of fighter right there.
Well, give Arnautis credit. He saw when he had a fight in something outside his normal pocket, and he's trying to fight it.
Very good round for Arnautis, who reasserted himself in the fight against a guy who had been coming on in the 3 preceding rounds.
Okay, listen up. Suck up good. The body work's starting to take its toll on this boy, okay? Now, remember, Mike, you got to keep that jab in the mix to keep him off balance, all right? Listen up. Keep that jab on to keep him off balance. Listen, you're punching in combinations good now. Straight left hands out of the. Listen, when he's rocking inside, the body work's starting to have him bent over a little bit. Look for your uppercuts. Don't stand.
7th round coming up. You're winning the fight. Don't let it give up the fight, huh? Come on. Give it all you got. You got to give it something.
Right here, you see Arnautis starting to fire back, getting a little respect. Good punches, mainly because of the bad balance of Torres, which I alluded to earlier. And you're going to see more of this if Arnautis keeps punching. All he has to do is punch.
Power shots in the 6th round. Torres 13 out of 63. Arnautis 17 out of 45. That's his highest landed total of power punches in the fight. Harold, how do you have it through 6?
Okay, Jim. 4 rounds to 2. 58. 56, Ricardo Torres. Jim, Mike Arnautis had a real good round in round 6. Did exactly what you said, did exactly what he was supposed to do, but he's got to keep it up. He's got to keep his hands moving, keep throwing that left hand, keep throwing combinations, and throw a few uppercuts in between. Because in 4 of these rounds, Ricardo Torres has hit him too many hard right hands. 4-2, Torres.
No. Keep it up, keep it up. Here we go.
Good left hand inside by Arnautis.
Yes, because Torres has no balance when he goes forward. His legs get all crossed, and that, once again, he's catching him again.
Solid right hook by Arnautis, and he landed the left. Torres landed a straight right hand in return. Now Ricky Torres lands his jab twice.
All Arnautis has to do is keep being aggressive, taking the lead, and making Torres try to figure out what he's going to do to him, and the fight would be over with.
Good job blocking punches upstairs by Arnautis. Cannot afford to lose too many more rounds, mighty Mike Arnautis, if he wants to salt away a decision victory.
Mike has a good chance of winning this by knockout. If he fights where I think it is, a good chance of winning to go to limit.
Good straight left hand inside by Arnautis as once again Torres leaned into the punch.
Does he punch that hard, Emmanuel?
Not really, just that I don't think much of Torres. Torres is he's not the fighter that fought Cotto. He's slow, he's lumbering, he has very bad coordination, particularly on the feet. And I think that Arnautis has mentally grown into this fight now.
And after all the energy Torres showed in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds, he's slipped back now into the envelope in which he fought the first 2 rounds.
There it is again. That's it. That's it. Ran right into it.
Perfect right hook.
Right.
You've been billboarding that, Emmanuel.
I saw it coming in the first round.
6, 7, 8. Venga para acá.
First knockdown of the fight, and it goes to Arnautis.
And he cannot stop Arnautis because he doesn't have the counter coordination.
Now let's see what Arnautis thinks about Torres' balance in the remainder of the round, but that's another good quick right hook by Arnautis, and Torres has wobbled again.
Torres is hurt.
It's over.
Badly hurt. Arnaudes needs to jump on him right now. There are only 15 seconds left in the round. Body shot. Arnaudes sharp now. Torres wants to trade with him. This is where he was so dangerous against Cotto. When Cotto got him in trouble against the rope, Torres landed the counter shots.
Manny, I know we keep you around here for some reason.
All right, take some water.
We got to start making some bets one day on these fights. No.
Are you all right? What happened? Come on, drink some water. Come on, don't give up now. What happened? How's your legs? Are you all right? You okay? Okay, then every time you hit him, he doesn't do anything. So don't let him hit you.
Right here, I think you see Mike, I think is going to let him fall off balance and hit him with the left hand and the right hook or right cross, whatever you want to call it. But it's mainly just bad balance on Torres' part. Terrible balance.
Left cross, right hook, perfectly thrown. And Torres, for the second time in the round, leaning right into that hook. CompuBox numbers in 7, Torres 4 out of 47, Arnaudes 16 out of 62.
Let's go.
2-point round for Arnaudes. That puts him back into the fight on the Letterman card in a very big way. Ricky Torres was down 4 times ultimately against Miguel Cotto. Cotto's a big puncher, particularly to the body. That wasn't a surprise. Arnaudes can prove something here if he can knock Ricardo Torres out. Right hand lands for Torres. Arnaudes likes the way things are going now. Looking to land another left cross.
Torres has no legs at all now.
It looks like he's hoping that Arnaudes overcommits himself, as Cotto did, if you recall, when he first hurt him.
Yeah, but Arnaudes is fighting a very intelligent fight. I think he's not getting carried away. He's placing, taking his time. Very good fight. I would like to see him throw his right jab a little bit more.
Arnaudes is letting him get off here.
Yep.
That right hook again.
Left hook lands for Torres. Straight left hand for Arnaudes, and you can see that Torres can no longer take Arnaudes' power punches. He wobbles back 2 or 3 feet when Arnaudes lands something good. Just
right
like
hook,
that.
right hook again.
Doesn't look like a very
excellent
long
body
distance.
shot by Arnaudes.
Doesn't look like a very long distance from here.
No, but he can't
to
see
the end of the fight.
What he needs to do is let Torres miss a punch and then step back a little step and then punch, because Torres is always out of position after he punches. The same way he scored the knockdown the first time. Let him miss a punch and then punch.
Now Torres is starting to land right hands again, and that could introduce a new element to the scoring of the fight, because of course Arnaudes looked as though he was going to be steaming away, having found the technical advantages, but if Torres goes back to landing that straight right hand, these rounds could even up again. Good hard left hand by Arnaudes. Torres lands his left hook in return. Arnaudes aggressive enough and offensive enough now that he's giving Torres more opportunities. And Ricardo Torres is letting his hands go.
And he may have won this round too. Torres may have won this round.
Which would put him back on top on Harold Letterman's card if that were the case. But I'm not going to call that. December 2, Winky Wright, one of the sport's top fighters, squares off with former 147-pound champion Ike Quartey in a middleweight bout. Also that night, former 168-pound champ Jeff Lacey returns to the ring for the first time since losing resoundingly to Joe Calzaghe earlier this year. Lacey will take on Vitaly Sipko. 1 week later, Jermaine Taylor defends his middleweight championship in his hometown of Little Rock, Arkansas. Taylor facing former 154-pound champion Kasim Umar.
finish off down there when you're there. And get your shots off, roll around on them, don't stand in front of them, turn them to you so you can get them clean shots off them. You know what I'm saying?
You're still winning, but you got to keep going. Get your second win. Now you got to go and do something.
Round 8 by CompuBox numbers. Torres 13 out of 70. Arnudis 11 out of 74. In other words, it might have been a hard round to score.
I thought it was a very hard round to score. Could have been an even round if you like even rounds, which Harold doesn't, and I do.
So Harold scores the round for Torres, who goes back in front by a point on the Harold Letterman scorecard. Arnudis had evened things up with the knockdown of Torres in round number 8. A round to go. If you were going to wager on who it was who would have gas in the tank down the stretch, that was Mike Arnudis. But Ricardo Torres staged a mini comeback in the second half of the round. Now begins to bounce around on his feet again. Good body shot by Arnudis, and he has done much better work to the body in the fight than has his opponent, Ricardo Torres.
That his work ratio is down too much to the way that Torres, if he doesn't watch, could eat right back into the fight, possibly even win a decision. He's going to have to pick up his punch output. He's waiting too much.
Well, what got him the lead was becoming aggressive, and now he's gone back to what lost him the lead. Although Torres is being less aggressive himself.
Yeah, and that's what. But he still, I think, probably feel he's ahead on points, and maybe they'll be thinking that way, but he is. The urgency should be with Arnudis for more reasons than one.
The urgency with both should be with both fighters. It feels more or less like an even fight coming down the stretch. Round 9 of a scheduled 12. There has been one knockdown. It came in the 8th when Arnudis knocked Ricardo Torres down. Check it, the 7th is where the knockdown took place.
That's what he needs to do, continue. Just pull just a little step back to make Torres lose his balance and then punch him.
Straight left hand lands for Arnudis. Torres again trying to counter everything Mike throws. Good quick right hand by Arnudis.
No.
After 2 or 3 rounds of very bad balance, Ricardo Torres seems more stable on his feet now as we get ready for the last 3 rounds of the fight. This was another round in which Mike Arnudis didn't fight at a fast enough pace, didn't seem to do enough, may have given Ricardo Torres an opportunity to win the round.
Okay.
Torres lands a low blow, and Tony Weeks tells him to keep him up.
Seems that knockdown has lulled Arnudis.
Still to come. Yeah. Manny Pacquiao against Érik Morales. Let's take one more look inside the Pacquiao locker room as trainer Freddie Roach laces up the gloves. Freddie, one of the busiest and best trainers in the sport of boxing.
And hard working.
Protege of the very great Eddie Futch. So he learned from a master. Futch, of course, the trainer of heavyweight champions Joe Frazier and Riddick Bowe. And Érik Morales in the other dressing room with his father, Jose Morales, who was absent from Erik's corner in the last fight. And Érik Morales said that was a big reason for his loss in the last fight. He was not as well conditioned as he had hoped or expected to be. He says, Pacquiao didn't hurt me with power punches. I simply ran out of gas. CompuBox numbers through 9. Torres 114 out of 613. Arnudis 109 out of 610. In other words, practically dead even. Harold Letterman, how do you have it through 9?
Practically dead even. 5 rounds to 4 in favor of Ricardo Torres, but the all-important points department even at 85-85 because Arnudis gets an extra point for the knockdown. Jim, I gotta tell you something. Mike Arnudis got nobody to blame but himself if he loses this fight because he hurt him in the 7th. In the 8th, he stands in the middle of the ring like he's doing now, stops giving him angles, stops moving, and stops punching, and loses that. The 9th was very, very close. I gave it to Arnudis, but barely. In any case, I got it all even, 85-85.
And now to begin the 10th, Arnudis is throwing his jab again with vinegar and landed a couple of short punches behind it. Now here comes Ricardo Torres with a rally of his own, chasing Arnudis back with straight right hands. So both fighters are stepping up the urgency level now coming into the 10th. Straight right hand for Ricardo Torres. Arnudis feels an urge to fight back. Body shot by Torres.
Torres is working himself back into the fight again, but just through plain effort. And
busier than Arnudis.
Busier and a lot of punches. Maybe they're not landing that clean, but Arnudis is not punching hardly at all. So as a result, Torres is winning the decision again.
Now Arnudis starts to let his hands go. He's got a big minute in front of him because this may be an even fight. Mike Arnudis needs to give himself a cushion down the stretch to try to win this decision. Ricky Torres feels the same urgency, and he's letting his hands go as a result. This is the 10th of Schedule 12. Ricardo Torres has never been past the 10th round. Arnudis twice past the 10th. A win and a draw in fights that went the distance. Little right hand lands for Arnudis.
Doing a lot of bouncing, a lot of prancing, a lot of posture, but not throwing enough punches.
There's a good straight left hand by Arnudis.
If he throws the punches, he starts winning these because he has faster hands.
Got to trust those faster hands.
Right there, he should have shot a counter punch.
Sometimes doesn't trust them enough, and there's a big left hook upstairs by Ricardo Torres. Arnudis showing good defensive skills here.
But he's not punching back after that. A lot of opportunities he's had. I give the round to Torres.
Vamos a salir décimo.
Jálale la concha, jálale la concha.
Ya recuperaste. ¿Ah? Ya te recuperaste. A soltarla ahora, mano. ¿Oíste?
Vamos,
pero pégala ahora abajo.
Mochuelo, quedan 2 rounds. Ganaste 2 rounds, ganaste el campeonato del mundo, Mochuelo.
¿Oíste?
Vamos a ponerle todo a esto.
¿Oíste? No le des.
Open the for your family shot.
Sucking good.
Presto, Dorá, presto.
Pop that stick out.
Combi box numbers in the 10th round. Arnudis, 6 out of 46. Lowest connect since the first round. Torres, 15 out of 68. Ricky Torres won the 10th round, or so it would seem. That puts him back on top on Harold Letterman's scorecard. Good left hand for Arnudis. Starts to throw again, starts to win again.
Very simple formula. Throw punches.
Whichever fighter chooses to let his hands go and throw punches at any given moment, that's the guy who suddenly takes advantage of his chance to be on top in the fight. Arnudis throwing his punches in this round.
But when you look at the CompuBox statistics, it pretty much tell you who won the decision in most cases. who threw the most punches. Very simple. In this case right here, I think that Arnautis has proven he can take the best punches of Torres. Now he should just step up his output himself.
Torres gets a right hand through the Arnautis guard. Arnautis was waiting for Torres to finish.
And now he's going back to a wide looping left hand instead of shooting a straight left hand right between the gloves and a short right hook behind it.
Good countering opportunities by Arnautis, and he lands a right and a left. Sharply. Arnautis blocking most of what Ricardo Torres is throwing in this round and landing that straight left hand. When Mike Arnautis is willing to fight with Ricardo Torres, he can beat him.
Yeah, because he has faster hands.
Not often enough, however, is he willing to fight with him to put his imprint on the fight.
No, he's about probably 65% more on defense.
But this has been a very precise round for Arnautis.
A good right hand
a
again.
Very good right hook
Right
on the cheek of Torres, and Torres is backing up, momentarily stunned again.
He doesn't see the right hook.
One step back, one step forward for Mike Arnautis. Clearly loses the preceding round, seems to fall behind, clearly wins this one.
Yep, but he got in position a lot of time. He still didn't let the punches go and let Torres get the first punch off.
Body shot by Arnautis.
There you go.
Chopping left hand, he lands his punches flush, takes a right hand in return. But all in all, this was a precise, well-placed Mike Arnautis 11th round.
That he needed.
Okay. We need a knockdown or a stoppage, baby.
Okay, last round. We need to win. Okay, you gotta put it all here. Don't give it away. Yeah. Get close to him.
Okay. Faint it. Go upstairs. Look for that left hand uppercut inside to the hand, to the chin, off your right hook, off your right hook.
This is the round for your family, your kids, for Colombia. You said you were going to be champion. Prove it now.
So just as was the case in the fight between Brian Viloria and Omar Nino, both corners asked desperately for the 12th round to be theirs. Harold Lederman has this fight dead even come to the 12th. He's as good as any scorer alive. It feels like the fight is on the table right here. Which man will fight his fight?
The one who throws the most punches will win the round.
The fight we saw earlier tonight in the flyweight division was in a similar situation. And one man wanted it more than the other.
Omar Nino, and he wound up with a draw that allowed him to keep the title belt he had won from Brian Viloria 3 months ago. Viloria once again couldn't completely solve the puzzle of Omar Nino, despite the fact that he knocked him down twice. He wound up with a draw. Arnautis has a knockdown of Ricardo Torres in this fight. And he could conceivably at this moment become the second fighter tonight to knock his opponent down, not be knocked down, and not win the fight.
It could happen. He has so many opportunities. He gets in great position to shoot a little straight left hand right through the center, and then he doesn't do anything. He ends up letting Torres take the lead.
Well, Bill Johnson, through the interpreter, Mike Michael, asked Arnautis for a knockdown or a stoppage in this last round, and I wonder if Arnautis is waiting too much to throw a power punch.
Well, you know that the championship on the world is on the line. You got everything going. You know, if you let it all hang out. If you lose by a knockout, just get knocked out, but at least try to win the championship.
Torres hasn't really landed anything clean or big in this round, and there's a perfect right hook by Arnautis and a good left-hand shot to the body. Those are the two best punches in the round so far.
The shot is there all night long if he would throw it. The right hook or the right jab or whatever you want to call it, it works very consistently if you throw it.
Because, as you pointed out earlier, Ricardo Torres dips his left shoulder when he comes forward. That gives Arnautis a chance to just pivot and throw that perfect right hook.
Yeah, but Torres is being smarter than Arnudis. He is backing up and acting as the counter puncher and drawing him in. And Arnudis is
that's when you catch him.
Lands the right hook again, and he knocks Torres off balance, and he lands a perfect straight left. And right now, Mike Arnudis is winning the 12th round, which is what he needed to do. He's landing the cleaner shots in this round.
Straight punches, and now been taking that little half a step backwards all night long.
And now Torres knows he's behind in the 12th round, and Arnudis has a look of confidence on his face, and Torres looks for a chance to come back one more time. Arnudis sticking his jab, keeps Torres away, sticks his jab again, makes Torres start over. 10 seconds to go in the fight. Arnudis has done what he wanted to do in the 12th round, short of the knockdown or the stoppage. But it would appear that he has cleanly and effectively won the 12th. Will it be enough to give him the fight?
I have no idea.
Don't look at me.
That's why we keep Harold around.
I got an idea.
Well, let's take a look at Harold Lederman's final card, and he agrees with me that Arnudis won the 11th and the 12th, and that gave him a 114-113 victory on Harold's card. What was the difference on the Lederman scorecard? 1 moment. It took place in the 7th round, and it's emblematic of something that Emanuel Stewart told you throughout the evening, which is that Mike Arnudis, the more precise, faster-handed puncher, was able to land most particularly his right hook whenever he wanted to. And that right hook, after a perfect straight left, put Ricardo Torres on the canvas and created the 1-point advantage that gave him a 1-point win on the Lederman scorecard, which is unofficial. Here are the 3 judges who will score it officially. Adelaide Byrd, veteran of 20 title fights. Recently had Joel Casamayor 116-111 over Corrales in their 3rd fight. Harry Davis of Canada, 18 title fights. Had Brewster ahead of Kaznicki at the time of Brewster's 9th round KO stoppage, had him winning every round. And Jerry Roth, perhaps the best known judge in the United States outside of our own Harold Lederman, known to favor aggressors, known to favor the harder, cleaner puncher. Michael Buffer standing by with the official decision on Mike Arnudis and Ricardo Torres.
By way of win, Las Vegas, we go to the judges' scorecards. Jerry Roth scores about 114-113 for Mike Arnudis. Adelaide Byrd scores it 116-111 for Ricardo Torres. And Harry Davis scores it 114-113 to the winner by split decision. From Barranquilla, Colombia, the new champion, Ricardo Mochuelo Torres.
Ricardo Torres gets the win. And Mike Arnudis, when he looks back at the tape, is likely to see this as a missed opportunity. Final CompuBox numbers. Torres landing 15 more punches and throwing 31 more punches overall. Emanuel Stewart told you the fighter who throws the most and lands the most by CompuBox count is going to win this fight. And that's exactly what happened. Power shots. Arnudis landing 100 to 115 for Torres. Torres throwing 162 more as he was mostly leading with the right hand while Arnudis was leading with his jab out of his southpaw stance. Arnudis landing at a higher connect percentage and scoring the only knockdown of the fight, but 2 judges preferred Ricardo Torres. Still to come here tonight, the main event. Manny Pacquiao against Érik Morales for the 3rd time. Morales won the first fight by unanimous decision. Pacquiao won the second fight by 10th round technical knockout. That is the only knockout loss of Érik Morales' career. And before we get to that, let's take a look at some upcoming fights. Next Saturday night, Boxing After Dark returns with former featherweight champ Juan Manuel Marquez taking on Filipino fighter Jim Rex Jaca. December 2, Winky Wright, coming off his draw with Jermaine Taylor, matches up with former welterweight champ Ike Quartey. Also that night, Jeff Lacey returns taking on Vitaly Sipkov. December 9, middleweight champion Jermaine Taylor squares off with former 154-pound champ Kasim Uma in Taylor's hometown of Little Rock, Arkansas. And December 16, on Boxing After Dark, a middleweight showdown between Edison Miranda, giant puncher, and Willie Gibbs. There's so much great boxing still to come on HBO this year. Log on to HBO.com and register for the boxing newsletter for all the latest information. Well, we've had a full undercard. Every bout has gone the distance. We have two decisions that may ultimately be seen as controversial. We've seen two fighters score knockdowns of their opponents, not get knocked down, and neither one came away with a win. So it's an unusual night already in Las Vegas. A tremendous, excited crowd. About half Mexican or Mexican-American here to root for Érik Morales. About half Filipino or Filipino-American here to root for Manny Pacquiao. This could be great. Let's take a look. Manny Pacquiao continue his ascent to boxing superstardom. The rubber match of the Pacquiao-Morales saga is next. It's finally time for our main event. The much anticipated rubber match between Manny Pacquiao of the Philippines and Érik Morales of Tijuana, Mexico. Morales won a close, unanimous decision over Pacquiao in the spring of 2005, but then was stopped in round 10 of their January rematch earlier this year. Tonight, they write the third chapter to boxing's latest great trilogy. Pacquiao-Morales III is being brought to you by Wynn Las Vegas Resort and Country Club. Budweiser, bright, crisp, clean, pure. This is Budweiser. This is beer. And by HBO Pay-Per-View, the best in pay-per-view entertainment, brought to you by HBO. With wins over Marco Antonio Barrera and Érik Morales on his resume, tonight is Manny Pacquiao's chance to firmly establish himself as the premier 130-pound fighter in the sport if he's able to emerge with a victory against Morales. Érik Morales, meanwhile, enters the ring as the clear underdog with 3 losses in his last 4 fights, including the knockout loss to Pacquiao in January. This may be Érik Morales' last shot to revive a career that has produced unforgettable ring wars over the course of the past 8 years. I've been calling fights for 20 years. I went to a lot of boxing matches before that. This could be as raucous, as noisy as any boxing crowd I've ever seen. Emmanuel Stewart. Earlier this year, the very great Marco Antonio Barrera, Morales' longtime foil from Mexico, got a look and a taste at the hard punching of Rocky Juarez. And when he fought him in a rematch 3 months later, basically totally finessed him and went by him with a very experienced, brilliant display of boxing. Is that something that Morales could do to Pacquiao?
He could do it, but I don't think it's going to happen. There's too much of a warrior inside of Morales. He's a fighter. And I don't think that he could fight a discipline-type fight like that for a whole 12 rounds. In particular with a guy like Pacquiao, who's going to come to him and make him fight. And he's going to have to fight at a certain point in time. He cannot get away by just fighting a technical fight the way that Barrera did. But also, Rocky Juarez was a more tentative, aggressive young fighter. He didn't come in with full force the way that Pacquiao is going to attack Morales. So therefore, that's a big difference.
Tentative is the last word that would ever be applied to Manny Pacquiao, who is all in, all aggression, all the time. He is the Texas Hold'em star of big-time boxing. And Larry, he's maybe the most exciting fighter in the world. But in the first meeting between the two, Morales was a little too big and a little too skilled for Manny Pacquiao. So is it possible that even as good as Pacquiao is, he wouldn't be able to beat a top-flight, perfectly conditioned Érik Morales fighting at his best?
Morales is trying to get back to where he was, which is possible for a night. But Pacquiao, who came to the U.S. just 5 years ago, recently removed from the flyweight division, has become a more well-rounded fighter and a strong fighter. He used to be a one-trick tiger, the big left hand. He's much more than that now. So if this was a midterm elections, he'd be the Democrat. But in this game, you got to duke it out in the ring between these candidates.
Indeed. No exit. We await the two fighters in the ring, but before they walk, 3 national anthems to come from center ring. Let's go to ring announcer Michael Buffer to set it all up.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we ask everyone to please rise for 3 national anthems. First, here to sing the national anthem of the Philippines, Ms. Sarah Geronimo.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay, lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupit, di ka pasisiil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bughaw, may dilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal, ang kisnag ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdidingding, ang bituin at araw na kailan pamay di magdidilim, lupa ng araw ng wal, hatid pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo, aming ligaya napak may mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing. Here to sing the national anthem for Mexico, please welcome Mario El Cachorro Delgado.
Mexicanos al grito de guerra, el acero apresta y el brinón, y retiembla en sus centros la tierra al sonoro rugir del cañón. y retiemble en su centro la tierra al sonoro rugir del cañón. Ciño patria tus sienes de oliva, de la paz del arcángel divino, que en el cielo tu eterno destino por el dedo de Dios escribió. Mas si osare un extraño enemigo profanar con sus plantas tu suelo, pienso, patria querida, que el cielo un soldado en cada hijo te dio, un soldado en cada hijo te dio. Mexicanos al grito de guerra, el acero apresta y el bridón, y retiemble en sus centros la tierra al sonoro rugir del cañón, y retiemble en sus centros la tierra al sonoro rugir del cañón. ¡Viva México!
And now, ladies and gentlemen, again, please remain standing, here to sing the national anthem of the United States of America, supported by the Nellis Air Force Base Honor Guard. From the United States Air Force, Master Sergeant Robert Brooks.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight last gleaming, and whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, well, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. And oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave, nor the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Tail of the tape now for the third meeting between Manny Pacquiao and Érik Morales. Manny Pacquiao, 27 years old at the very peak of his career. Érik Morales, regarded by some ring experts as potentially an old 30. So many wars, so many big rounds, so much intensity in his career. An inch-and-a-half height advantage for Morales. An arm-length advantage measured from the armpit to the end of the fist of 1 inch for Pacquiao. They both weighed in a pound under the 130-pound limit tonight. Morales has gone up only to 139 unofficially, while Pacquiao has put on 15 pounds of rehydration to go to 144, so Manny, for the first time, will enter the ring with a functional weight advantage against Morales. Punch stat numbers from preceding fights.
In the first fight, as you can see, Pacquiao threw many more punches, but Morales landed many more punches. Second fight, Pacquiao again threw more punches. In that fight, he landed more punches.
Rules of the bout with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
The Manny Pacquiao-Érik Morales fight is scheduled for 12 rounds using the unified rules of the Association of Boxing Commissions. There is no 3 knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight. In case the cut is caused by an accidental headbutt, we go to the scorecards after 4 rounds have been completed, and you cannot be saved by the bell at any round, including the 12th and final round. Jim.
We went back through the record books to try to find which fighters in the history of the sport had 2 trilogies that might match the intensity of what Morales has experienced against Marco Antonio Barrera and now against Manny Pacquiao. Larry, what kind of fighters did we find?
Well, you have to go all the way back to Ali for his trilogies with Norton and Frazier among elite fighters. And before that, you got to go way back to Sugar Ray Robinson, who had 3 trilogy pluses in his career. So it is very, very unusual what Morales has accomplished. He says it's a myth that it has worn him down.
40 years ago, Bob Dylan had a line in a song called Visions of Johanna. The ghost of electricity howls in the bones of her face. Emmanuel, when the ghost of electricity howls in the bones of Érik Morales' face, normally that means he's ready to fight. But you say perhaps he has crashed and burned to make weight too many times.
Yeah, you know, what bothers me a lot was the last fight when he lost to Pacquiao, the way that he went down. He went down to his knees in a manner very much reminiscent of the way that Arturo Gatti did when he fought Bellamir, which was like, I'm tired, I'm done. I've had so many hard fights. And it was not just a one-punch knockout or something to type. And I don't know if he can rebound from that. And, you know, he's made to weight, but I don't know if that's the proper weight for him at this age and time in his career.
Well, we'll see how he fights. He himself says, Manny Pacquiao didn't hurt me with power punches. I simply ran out of gas because I was not properly conditioned for that fight. I was not working with my normal trainer, my father. I was with someone else. I've brought my father back, and this will be the old Érik Morales. That's Erik's case. Astonishing stats in Érik Morales' career. He's had 17 fights against fighters who've won title belts. He has gone 8 or more rounds 23 times. Not many fighters have worked harder. Manny Pacquiao, 19 fights since he became a star here in the United States, 15 wins by knockout. The only loss in those 19 fights was the decision loss to Érik Morales the first time around. Pacquiao already has knockout wins over both of the great Mexican featherweights of the era, Morales and Barrera. Now can he match Marco Antonio Barrera's 2 wins out of 3 in a trilogy with Morales? And Larry Merchant, while we talk about all the ring wars and the tremendous workload that Érik Morales has had in the ring, for Pacquiao, the problem has been outside the ring distractions by the bushel bull.
Well, now that you mentioned it, Jim, we learned earlier that Pacquiao's representatives have returned about $500,000 in bonuses and other monies to Golden Boy, which Golden Boy had signed him. So there's going to be a royal battle. The checks were not accepted by Golden Boy. There'll be a royal battle in the court. He brings this stuff with him, but he also comes to the ring like one of those guys who not has a band coming behind him, but is the band.
In fact, he's entering to his own recorded song, much like Oscar De La Hoya in the United States. Manny Pacquiao is a recording artist in the Philippines. His most recent album sold 50,000 copies in the first week, and the song you just heard was from that particular record. Now let's go to Michael Buffer for official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, by way of Wynn, Las Vegas, Bob Arum's Top Rank Incorporated is proud to present the grand finale, the third and final chapter in one of the great trilogies in boxing history, sponsored by PokerStars.net and the King of Beers, Budweiser. This bout is dedicated to the memory of a true friend of boxing. He was president of the European Boxing Union and for 30 years, executive vice president of the WBC. Rest in peace, Ruben Martinez. This is the main event of the evening. 12 rounds of boxing for the WBC International Super Featherweight Championship. Sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, Chairman Dr. Tony Alamo, Executive Director Keith Kaiser, World Boxing Council President Jose Suleiman. At ringside, the three judges scoring this bout are Guido Cavalieri, Dwayne Ford, and Glenn Trowbridge. And inside the ring, the man in charge of the action at the bell, referee Vic Draculich. And now, for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble! Fighting out of the blue corner, wearing white with black, official weight 129 pounds. Professional record, 48 victories, including 34 knockouts with 4 defeats. He is the former super bantamweight world champion, former featherweight world champion, and former super featherweight champion of the world, damas y caballeros de la zona norte, Tijuana, Mexico, Erik, el terrible Morales. And across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing white with flame, official weight also 129 pounds. His professional record, 42 victories, including 32 knockouts with 3 defeats and 2 draws. From General Santos City, Philippines, former flyweight champion of the world, former super flyweight champion of the world, the reigning and defending WBC International Super Featherweight Champion, Manny Pacquiao.
All right, gentlemen, this is for the WBC International Super Featherweight Title. You received your instructions in the dressing room. Again, I want to caution you. Any punches below this point are going to be called low. Golpes de bajo, de este punto, ser llamado bajo. With that said, I want you to obey my commands, protect yourselves at all times. Obedezca mis comandos y protegerse a sí mismo siempre. Touch on it now, good luck to both of you. Tóquenlos, buena suerte.
Hide the women and children, if any of them are still awake.
I don't know about you, Larry, but the kind of women I know love this stuff. Round 1 begins. Will it be a boxing match? Will it be a brawl? Will it be a little of both?
Morales looking like he wants to engage. Pacquiao just figuring out what he's doing.
Pacquiao's belief is that Érik Morales wants to come and try to get him early. After what happened in the last fight, Pacquiao believes that Morales doesn't believe in his gas tank, doesn't think he can go down the stretch with the Filipino slugger. So Manny thinks that Morales is going to try to impose his size early. But tonight, on official weights, Manny's the bigger guy.
You know, the fact that Morales wanted to use the puncher's gloves also created a little interest to me, at least. Normally he would be asking for the winning, but he wanted to go with the gloves that Pacquiao wanted. which means I think he wants to go for the power punch in this fight early.
Indeed, there's been quite a story of the gloves since the first fight. In the very first fight, Érik Morales had a contract that required both fighters to wear winning gloves. They are called pillows by some. They are more hand protective than punch promoted. In the second fight, they got to wear the gloves they wanted. Morales wore winning. Pacquiao wore his beloved Reyes puncher's gloves and knocked Morales out, which he had said would be the case. Now in the third fight, both fighters choose to wear the puncher's glove, Reyes.
Pacquiao's already landed a couple of good body punches to test Morales's, not only his defense, but long-term his stamina.
Look, Morales made to wait, as I said earlier, but I just don't think that that's the proper weight for him at this age and time in his career. And going down the stretch, I think that may be a big factor too, as well as the hard fights that he's had.
And if Pacquiao thought Morales was coming to try to get him early, Erik has shown none of that in the first round, as he merely stands his ground in the middle of the ring and takes a right hook from Manny Pacquiao, who was so much better with his right hand in the second fight than in the first. Another right hook lands.
Manny consistently beating Morales to the punch so far.
And Morales countering with a right hand that knocks Manny back. And Morales again countering properly upstairs. And Pacquiao comes back with his own assault. And both fighters' crowds are on their feet.
You know, technically, Pacquiao is not a solid fighter, as everyone in boxing knows. He often gets out of position often with his punches and does a lot of things awkward and unorthodox, but still there's so much fight in him that it takes him through. In this case here, I just don't think that Morales is strong enough. And when he misses his punches, I'm looking at his legs. His legs doesn't seem to be that coordinated.
For these fighters, this is just a warm-up round.
May have been a one-up round, but the crowd found a lot to whoop about. And when we go to Érik Morales' corner, where his dad speaks Spanish, our interpreter is Ray Torres.
Okay, you got to throw on the top. Yeah, throw that left hook to the body. Yeah, you're too far away. Get closer.
You have to stay off the ropes. That's the only time you got hit. Okay? Yeah. Stay off the ropes for me, okay, son? Yeah. You feel the ropes coming up and you get off them, okay? Use your jab and get off them, okay?
Right here you see Pacquiao land a right counter jab hook, or whatever you want to call it, that Morales just didn't see. He was coming in and didn't see it.
Once upon a time, Pacquiao only had the left stuff. He's got the right stuff behind it now.
That was one of the big changes between fight one and fight two. CompuBox numbers in round one. Pacquiao 15 out of 41, Morales 10 out of 41. Pacquiao with a 10-5 edge in Power Connects. You saw that Judge Harold Letterman, our unofficial scorer, gave the first round to Manny. Pacquiao crowd chanting Manny, Manny, Manny. Morales, who landed some good right hands in the first fight, tried to drive Pacquiao back with right hands there, but Manny comes back with a torrent of punches from his own. Packed house, and of course you have ardent, spirited Mexican and Mexican-American Morales rooters sitting next to and among ardent, spirited Filipino and Filipino-American rooters for Pacquiao.
And what's interesting, a lot of the Mexican fans like Pacquiao themselves too, because of his style of fight and being so aggressive.
And because of the Spanish-speaking tradition of the Filipino archipelago. Or the Philippine archipelago. Another body shot by Pacquiao. When they get close to the ropes and Morales throws his right hand, you can see why Freddie Roach asks his fighter to stay away from the ropes and in the center of the ring. Good jab by Morales, sweeping right hand partially blocked. Now Pacquiao lands a right and a left, and another right hook, and a left hand over the top. The sheer aggression of Manny Pacquiao, difficult for every opponent.
He looks so strong and so sturdy as compared to Morales. Even though Morales is landing, he seems to be still uncoordinated as compared to...
Down goes Morales, on a Pacquiao right hand.
Left.
And Morales thought that he had Pacquiao in trouble.
He got overexcited, overextended himself, and left himself open.
I just don't think he has the strength or the stamina to hold over Pacquiao.
That was the 4th time in his career that Érik Morales has been knocked down. 2 of them were in the last fight against Pacquiao, and they led ultimately to the end of the fight. The first knockdown of Morales' career was a glove-touching brush with the canvas against Marco Antonio Barrera in the 12th round of their first fight. So he's never exactly been thunderously put on his back, but he goes down easier against Pacquiao than against anybody else he's ever fought. That's because of how quick Pacquiao's fists are, and he doesn't see the punches coming, Joe. Pacquiao again landing his straight left hand. Morales chases him and lands a right. They trade punches at the rope. And when they trade punches, Morales takes a gamble with Pacquiao's strength and power. Pacquiao is a 2-to-1 favorite in this fight, so far justifying the odds.
But Morales is a fighter, so he's going to fight all the way until this fight is over with.
Don't just stand in front of him. Keep his distance.
And he throws so many punches, sometimes it's hard to isolate the knockdown punch, Emmanuel. Let's take a look.
Here you see Morales coming in with an attack, but Pacquiao just shoots a punch, but Morales was out of position and knocked him down. A lot of was balanced.
Hit him with both the right and the left, got him to go down. CompuBox numbers in 2, and you see the flurry with which they ended the round.
This is vintage Morales here.
Fighting back after he had been down in the round.
He wants to get the last punch. The great fights with Barrera was attributed to that attitude of his of wanting to have the last punch.
Letting his hands go, Érik Morales threw 80 punches in the second round, but Manny Pacquiao throwing only 55, landed 24, 3 more than Morales. So Pacquiao a little more precise, and you won't often say that. Normally he's just throwing because he is a noisy storm in the ring.
Pacquiao is fighting a much more intelligent fight now than he did earlier, about 4 or 5 years ago. I think him and Freddie Roach have worked a lot. His jab is a lot better. Even right there, he tried to counter with a jab after blocking a jab.
Pacquiao landed a right hand upstairs. Érik Morales got to his body with the right hand. Pacquiao much more focused on landing his jab in this fight than was the case in the first 2 fights. Solid left hand, backs Morales up, crowd loves it. And unlike some punchers, Manny does have head movement.
Yeah, that was almost reminiscent of a little Aaron Proud, where he punched the body and then comes up on top.
Érik Morales, not afraid to fight with one of the most dangerous punchers in the sport.
Érik Morales likes to get that last punch in.
He has the kind of will that allows some men walk over hot coals.
That's a right hook, a punch that...
Hard right hand, stun Morales. Pacquiao's all over him. Thinks he's got a chance. Morales slightly staggered after that last left hand. And down he goes. Solid left hand shot by Pacquiao, who did not like Morales saying that he didn't hurt him with punches in the second fight. Pacquiao was insulted by that. Yeah. He said, okay, I'll hurt him this time.
But he's a fighter. He's going to fight still. He's not going to try to run.
What is the referee doing? Why is he holding the fight?
He's forcing him to go back to the neutral corner.
Oh, what a solid left hand by Pacquiao. It's hard to imagine how Morales can last long against this.
Well, until he goes out, he's going to be fighting all the way down. He's not going to back up.
What guts by Morales! He strafes Pacquiao with right hands, even while on unsteady feet.
And he is hurt.
And he holds on for one of the first times in his career. 30 seconds to go. Another huge left hand by Pacquiao. Punch after punch after punch. And he wants to finish Morales right here. And the brave heart of Morales holds up, but his legs go again.
breakdown of the fight by Pacquiao against Morales.
He doesn't want to get
Érik
up.
Morales shakes his head as if to say, I want no more. That is that. Nick Dracula stops the fight. Manny Pacquiao has the knockout.
He looked into the corner, looking for his father, as if to say, Pop, I tried my best. I don't have it anymore.
Érik Morales was overwhelmed. Manny Pacquiao goes to another level.
Manny Pacquiao is a big draw. I think this unbelievable crowd is mainly an attribute to a new superstar, Manny Pacquiao, because after such a devastating performance the last time, I never thought they could draw this people, but he's brought the people here because of him and his excitement.
Tremendous excitement. Manny Pacquiao fights the way you want to see a fighter fight.
I expected the fight to go exactly as it went.
Well, you were skeptical all week as to whether Morales could produce the one big effort that so many people thought he would.
He made to wait, but he made to wait, and that's like Ali made to wait for his last fight with Larry Holmes, but it was not to wait to be able to perform on a top level in sports. It's no good for him, in addition to the wars as he's had. And then he's with a very great, strong, young fighter.
All right, Manny, let's take a look at, and I'm saying this, Emmanuel Stewart.
Well,
let's take a look at some replays.
Manny's name is Emmanuel, too. His real name. Yeah. It's just everything. It's just too much of an attack, the intensity, the fury. The wrong thing for an aging fighter.
It's hard to uphold precision and craft when a guy is just overwhelming you.
And he punches good with both hands now. It used to be he was a simple 1-2 puncher with a straight left. Now he does a right hook, uppercuts, everything.
Now, shortly after this second knockdown, if the camera angle shows it to you, you will see, exactly as Larry Merchant said, Érik Morales stares into the corner and looks at his father.
Well, that's the same look that I said before that I saw when he went down the last fight, even though he said it wasn't from a punch. And I saw the same thing with Arturo Gatti. And that's the worst look it is when they say, I'm done, I'm finished.
That's the look, right there.
And Alexis Aguero did it the second fight with Aaron Pryor. The same look, I'm done.
Michael Buffer stands by with an announcement that will bring every Manny Pacquiao rooter back to his feet.
Ladies and gentlemen, the end comes at 2 minutes, 57 seconds of round number 3. The winner by knockout victory, the fighting pride of the Philippines, still champion, Manny
Manny Pacquiao closed the show, landing 51 of 71 power shots in the third round, en route to the scintillating knockout of Morales. Total punches in the fight, Pacquiao landing more than twice as many, throwing about the same number. Morales was brave and wasn't afraid to throw. Look at Pacquiao's connect percentage, 54%. When a giant puncher for the weight like Pacquiao lands 54%, you are going to be overwhelmed. Power shots, Manny was effective with the jab tonight, but landed 83 out of 131 power punches. Look at that, 63%. Morales' numbers weren't bad. He was just lost at sea against the rising tide that Pacquiao still is.
He's a fantastic fighter.
Larry Merchant stands by with the Filipino superstar.
Thank you very much, Jim. Congratulations, Manny.
Thank you.
You thought he would come after you. Did you also think that if he did, you might end the fight early?
You know, I like that. He came in early, you know. He came out early, so I can knock him. I have a chance to knock him out too in the early rounds.
You looked even faster against him with your hands than I can remember in the early fights. You were continually beating him to the punch. Is that true?
Oh yeah, I believe that I'm faster than him and I'm quicker than him, and I think I'm stronger than him. Now I think he felt my power.
So after you knocked him down in the early round, the second round, did you think he's just not the fighter he once was, and that you could get him?
Well, he doesn't speak my right hook, so he surprised my right hook, you know, and that's my advantage to him.
So is this the climax of this part of your career, do you feel that having won 2 of the 3 fights from a great fighter like Morales, that is a very big thing for you?
You know, in my every fight, I live to God, you know. God, he gave me a strength tonight, and I won. And, you know, first, I would like to thank to all the people who loves boxing and support us, and also the promoter, Bob Aram, Top Rank Promotion, and also the HBO, and also to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Manny. I have to ask you some questions. Everybody is anticipating that your next fight would be a big fight against Barrera. Is that the fight you want?
As of now, we don't want to discuss about that, you know. I take rest first, and spend time with my family, and going back home to celebrate my victory, because all Filipinos, millions of Filipinos, they're watching right now, and they're celebrating to my victory.
Thank you very much for a great fight.
All right, thank you very much, and I would like to thank to all the president of the Philippines. Thank you for your support, and also Mayor Lito Atienza, and also the HBO. Thank you very much for all your support. Without you, we're not here. Thank you, and Bob Aram also.
Thank you very much. Jim?
You know, the prospect of Manny Pacquiao getting better is frightening to everybody at 130 pounds, maybe even up to 135, but if anything, he was faster, the head movement was better, his punches were harder. I don't think I've ever seen him look any better than that.
And he's got a right hook, which is a great weapon for any southpaw, because everybody looks for the southpaw straight and left. And if a southpaw can develop a right hook, and even better yet, a right uppercut, he's going to be more effective. But I was impressed with him tonight. But I also, just as much, I expected it to some degree. And I still see a lot of flaws in his style. That a rematch with Barrera, I think, is going to be a tough fight for him, as well if he ever fights a Juan Manuel
Marquez
against. I think those 2 fights are going to be tough fights for him.
Yeah, we'll talk about why those are the 2 obvious fights on the table for Pacquiao, Barrera and Marquez. A lot of people want to see it happen. Neither guy has to be terribly anxious to get at him after tonight. Let's go to Larry Merchant and get the reflections from Érik Morales.
Thank you very much, Jim. Érik, you got yourself in as best shape you could to give your best effort. Is Pacquiao just too young and fast at this stage of your career?
Te pusiste en la mejor condición que pudiste para hacerlo mejor. Pacquiao es demasiado hoy en día.
Es un gran trabajo físico, técnico. Me cuidé mucho tiempo. Di por debajo del peso. Hice todo lo que tenía que hacer para ganar. Creo que Pacquiao es un peleador fuerte, rápido. Y bueno, yo creo hay que felicitarlo y ganó a buena lid.
Yeah, absolutely. I did my best. I had the physical training, I had the mental training, all the preparation, everything that I could do to win. Pacquiao was just too much. I did my best.
When you went down the last time, you looked to the corner. Were you looking for your father? What were you thinking at that time?
Cuando caíste la última vez, miraste a la esquina, estabas mirando a tu papá pidiendo ¿qué le querías decir?
No. Ellos me decían que me levantara y que hiciera algunas cuestiones técnicas, pero le cerré el ojo, señal que ya no tenía caso. Yo creo que hay veces que hay que levantarte y hay veces que hay que saber decir adiós.
Yeah. I was looking to my corner, and they were urging me on to get up, but I said no, it's to no avail. At times when you need to know when you're beaten, and I think I was a beaten man tonight.
Do you know whether you will continue fighting as of this minute?
¿Sabes tú desde este momento en adelante si continuarás peleando o qué hay?
Lo pensaría mucho. Creo que fue una noche bonita, una arena llena, un gran público de los 2 lados. Una gente muy emotiva. Yo creo que tendré que pensarlo. Creo que es una muy bonita noche para decir adiós también.
There's a lot of good fans here, a beautiful night, a full arena. I have to think a lot about it. It was a night that just wasn't to be.
You were skeptical that all the hard fights you've had over the years have taken a toll on you. Do you think that is true now?
¿Tú no creías que las peleas difíciles que has tenido en tu carrera te habían agotado un poco? ¿Qué piensas ahora?
No creo. Simplemente creo que ha pasado el tiempo. Pacquiao es un peleador rápido, fuerte. Tiene otra clase de características que los demás no tenían. Y bueno, el tiempo ha pasado. Ha hecho una carrera impresionante, buena, con el apoyo de Bob. Y yo creo que no tiene caso andar, si tal vez Bob ya no me quisiera promover, irme con alguien más. Yo empecé en Top Rank, mi carrera internacional, y quiero terminar aquí en Top Rank.
I had a long, lustrous career. I've done it all, and with the help of Bob Arum, Top Rank, if they still want to promote it, but it might not be the best thing.
Thank you. You've always had the heart of a champion.
Muchas gracias. Y fue un gran gusto llenar de buenas noches a la gente de peleas grandes.
And it was always a pleasure on my part to thrill all the people with good fights.
Thank you. Jim?
Sounded like a retirement speech to me.
Yeah, and he's been a great warrior. I love him. I hated to even see this fight. I was surprised that he went through with this third fight, but I did not want to see the fight because he's given us so many great thrills. In fact, I was training with Oscar De La Hoya the night that he won the championship. We were training together up at Big Bear, and that was about 10 years ago. So he's had a lot of great fights.
The night that he beat Daniel Zaragoza in El Paso.
Yeah, Oscar and I were
He was a skinny kid at that time.
Yeah, but he's had a lot of great fights since then. You know, in between not just the Barrera fights and these fights, he's been in exciting fights all of the times.
He wanted to try and negotiate this third fight at 135 pounds with Pacquiao. Pacquiao wouldn't bite, wouldn't go there to 135. Would it have made a difference?
I don't think so, but it would have helped him. So I believe he lost the weight by actually the last 2 weeks of just starving and not eating. And then when you do that and your stomach shrinks, you cannot try to replenish the food by eating a big meal. It won't happen. You'll get sick if you do it. So therefore, you're just going to be weak.
All right, joining us now, Larry Merchant, after his interviews with both of those two fighters. And Larry, one sun certainly rises higher in the sky, and another, it appears, may have finally set.
The way a great young fighter gets recognition is by beating a great older fighter. And let us pay tribute to Morales one last time. He's never been a great puncher, never a great boxing stylist. It was just a sheer sum of the greater sum of his parts than what he was through his sheer fighting spirit that made him the fighter he was. As for Pacquiao, you know, we've said just about everything, including that a great young fighter like him can't be beaten in his prime, and you saw that. There was just nothing that was going to set him back tonight. We all want to see him fight Barrera again, or Marquez. There are problems. That $500,000 check that was returned to Golden Boy in the last day, there's going to be a battle in the courts between Golden Boy and Top Rank. So I don't know if that fight can actually, either of those fights can be made, because Barrera and Marquez are Golden Boy fighters. Nevertheless, we came to see explosion. We got it.
Indeed. Manny Pacquiao's mountainous and seemingly never-ending problems outside the ring put you in mind of Jack Dempsey and Mike Tyson. So too does his punching power. What a great performance by the most exciting fighter in boxing. Now let's look ahead to what's coming for the rest of the year in our boxing calendar on HBO. Next Saturday night, Boxing After Dark returns with former featherweight champ Juan Manuel Marquez taking on Filipino Jim Rex Jaca. December 2, Winky Wright, coming off of his draw with Jermaine Taylor, matches up with former welterweight champ Ike Quartey. Also that night, Jeff Lacey returns taking on Vitaly Tsipko. December 9, middleweight champion Jermaine Taylor squares off with former 154-pound champ Kasim Uma in Taylor's hometown of Little Rock, Arkansas. December 16, on Boxing After Dark, a middleweight showdown between Edison Miranda, huge puncher, and Willie Gibbs. There's so much great boxing still to come on HBO this year. Log on to HBO.com and register for the boxing newsletter for all the latest information. So the next time that Larry Merchant and I will be seeing you, along with Emmanuel Stewart, that'll be December 2 in Tampa, Florida, when Winky Wright, who ranks right along with Pacquiao among the top 3 pound-for-pound fighters in the sport, right behind the consensus #1 Floyd Mayweather Jr., takes on the very difficult Ike Quartey at a weight of 160, which would seem to favor Winky, as does the style of the fight, because Quartey is tremendous with his left hand, both the jab and the hook that he showed recently against Vernon Forrest, but that left hand goes right against the right shoulder of Winky Wright and his southpaw defensive stance. That'll be December 2 on World Championship Boxing. Hey, thanks for being with us tonight from Las Vegas. Pacquiao-Morales has been brought to you by Wynn Las Vegas Resort and Country Club. Budweiser, bright, crisp, clean, pure. This is Budweiser, this is beer. And by HBO Pay-Per-View, the best in pay-per-view entertainment, brought to you by HBO.